And the most crucial thing is whether one can become a perfect time being, which was actually determined the moment they embarked on the path of cultivation. Either you can or you can't. Cannot be changed through acquired efforts. And under this premise, the Lord of Heaven Light is likely unable to become a perfect time being. If they cannot become a perfect time being and yet strive for perfection, it is akin to courting death. A Time Lord, as long as they do not seek death, will not die, unless they attempt to achieve the 14th rank of perfect time being. The light shines everywhere. All the eternal lords, including the Master of Infinite, were awestruck, looking at the Lord of Heaven Light who exuded infinite brightness, bringing hope to this source world. They did not know how to speak for a moment. To advise the Lord of Heaven Light not to strive for perfection? With the resolute will of a Time Lord, the fact that the Lord of Heaven Light is talking to them about this now means that a decision has already been made in the heart. Calling 13 eternal lords was to inform, not to seek their opinions. But if not advised against, the 13 eternal lords owed a great debt to the Lord of Heaven Light, truly unwilling to see the other walk voluntarily into a path of certain death. Teacher. Finally, the Master of Infinite cautiously spoke up. The 13 eternal lords all addressed the Lord of Heaven Light as teacher. Of course, the Lord of Heaven Light did not take them as disciples. The term teacher was merely a form of address. Infinite. Say what you wish to say. The Lord of Heaven Light looked gently at the Master of Infinite. Even though already knowing what was to be said, listened quietly until the Master of Infinite finished speaking. What if the attempt at perfection fails? After much hesitation, the Master of Infinite tentatively inquired. Attempt at perfection fails? The Lord of Heaven Light glanced at the other 12 eternal lords, eyes profound. Answered with a sentence that back then the Master of Infinite did not understand, also completely unrelated to the inquiry. There will be others who follow. The gaze of the Master of Infinite drifted, looking at Lin Yuan, who was once again sitting cross-legged in the scene. The demonic chi all around retreated within infinity. With Lin Yuan at the center, the source world in nearly 1/5 of the area was no longer enveloped in demonic chi. Each Time Lord attempting the 14th rank of perfection was prepared for the possibility of death and failure. The Lord of Heaven Light was neither the first nor the last Time Lord to strive for perfection. Even if Time Lords continually fail and die in attempting the 14th rank, eventually, after endless ages, there will be life forms that truly evolve into perfect time beings. The robes of the Master of Infinite fluttered, distantly watching Lin Yuan. Chaos void. Lin Yuan still drifted with the chaos chi among the desolate voids. The third level of chaotic Taiji Dao has indeed greatly enhanced my strength. Lin Yuan confirmed the potential of his chosen path through sparring with Demon God. The second source world, to elevate his chaos evolution path to the third level, reached the Heavenly Venerate realm. And Heavenly Venerates, even with all 6 ancient countries combined, there are many, but whose path of chaos power can match the 13th rank of time beings at the third level. Indeed, Lin Yuan's combat prowess is not only due to the third level of chaotic Taiji Dao but also many other factors. Yet achieving the third level of chaotic Taiji Dao significantly boosts Lin Yuan's power, surpassing the typical increase from the second to the third level of a normal chaos power path. Lin Yuan, drifting with the chaos chi, suddenly discovered a new secret realm being nurtured, nearing its completion. In the chaos void, secret realms collapse and new ones are born every moment, but newly born secret realms are often very secretive. Besides the secret realm itself, they also give rise to a group of wondrous life forms. Within the wondrous life forms birthed alongside this secret realm, will there emerge one who sweeps across the chaos void as an invincible great saint in the future? Where Lin Yuan's gaze fell, timelines unfurled. As time flowed, this secret realm successfully completed its nurturing, and the wondrous lives within it ventured out, contacting cultivators from the outside world. One of these wondrous lives, due to having its absorbed energy stolen by others during the nurturing process, was innately deficient, yet ultimately broke through obstacles and conquered the chaos void, gaining the title of Invincible. Of course, this is merely a highly probable timeline. There are many timelines where this wondrous life did not become an invincible great saint, or even perished prematurely before fully maturing. But with Lin Yuan's current mastery and control over future timelines, as long as no major unexpected changes occur, such as intervention by other time beings, it is essentially a foregone conclusion. The future seen by time beings is inherently filled with unpredictability due to involving other time beings. Any action by a time being is a variable. However, merely peering into the future timelines of beings below the 13th rank lacks so many surprises. Nearly everything seen in the future will happen. Is this the invincible great saint in the eyes of a time being? Lin Yuan's thoughts shifted. He had previously thought that an invincible great saint sweeping across the chaos void would hold some status even in the eyes of time beings. Yet as strong as Xian Huang and demonic Jade Tower Master were, they spent their lives seeking the traces of time beings, and these two invincible great saints did encounter an imprint left in the chaos void by some time beings, and received some guidance. Yet it was merely guidance, and only as a result of great luck. Many invincible great saints overseeing an era never had the opportunity to meet a time being. But now it seems, in the eyes of time beings, so-called invincible great saints differ little from other Chaos Realm perfects, or even Chaos Venerables. The future timeline is too thin, seen through at a glance. The future of human civilization? Lin Yuan similarly observed the future of human civilization. In many future timelines, human civilization flourished immensely, though after eons, internal strife and division gradually occurred, leading to numerous conflicts. Lin Yuan watched indifferently, viewing the series of future timelines. He did not prevent this internal strife and division. After eons, Lin Yuan only cared about the human civilization as a whole. How many evolvers would die? To what extent human civilization would suffer was of little concern, as long as human civilization as a group continued to exist. This is the mentality of the 6 ancient countries' ancestors. Lin Yuan's expression seemed thoughtful. The 6 ancestors of the first source world actually did not care much about the rise and fall of the ancient countries themselves. Of course, with the ancestors present, the ancient countries would not weaken excessively, yet the wars between ancient countries and such the ancestors would not intervene. How many powerful individuals in their own ancient country died due to war, the ancestors similarly do not care. As long as their own capitals were not breached. The sole concern of the 6 ancestors was to cultivate a new time being. This is also the reason the ancestors left numerous heritages in their respective ancient countries, with the Defu ancestor descending personally to guide the future generations periodically. Lin Yuan merely lingered in the secret realm being nurtured for a moment, then continued drifting with the Chaos Chi. The myriad rules and great paths of the Chaos Void were all meticulously observed by Lin Yuan. Even the most basic of the golden rules, water rules. As Lin Yuan observed and comprehended once more, he still felt new insights and understanding. Lin Yuan's mind suddenly moved, looking towards the depths of the Chaos Void. Their time loop regions stretched far and wide, nearly the final destination for all perfect Chaos Realm life forms. Then suddenly, in a certain time loop region on the periphery, visible tremors occurred, threads of time power stopped their cycle, and the once perfect large time cycle now showed signs of being breached. Rustle. Strands of time power suddenly began to reverse, ceasing the cycle, and this time loop region began to collapse. The Chaos Void has birthed the 8th time being. Lin Yuan watched the scene deep within the Chaos Void and murmured softly. Up to now, there are a total of 7 13-tier beings of time in the Chaos Void. Adding the one who is about to break through the time loop now, there would be 8 beings of time. To think this Luo Ho great saint can break through the time loop, is it because of me? Lin Yuan thought to himself. The life now about to break through the time loop is precisely Luo Ho great saint. Earlier, Lin Yuan had already noticed the trend of Luo Ho great saint breaking through the time loop. It was through the perception of the Lord's status that this conclusion was reached, something other beings of time could not do. And the reason Luo Ho great saint could so smoothly break through the time loop is related to witnessing Lin Yuan's terrifying strength. It is precisely because of this. Luo Ho great saint put aside the idea of proving the invincible name, which led to a shift in his mindset and the dissipation of obsession. Of course, Breaking through the time loop is influenced by obsession, but obsession is not everything. The main focus is on whether one can pass the final test within the loop. At the moment of the tremor in the time loop area, the 7 beings of time in the chaos void also sensed it. Is this another time being born in our chaos void? Ha ha ha, this is a good thing. I originally thought it would be the galaxy. Smiles appeared on the faces of the 7 time beings. As time beings in the same chaos void, they would naturally form ally relations once the great destruction leads them into dimensional gaps. The more naturally the better. Lord Mo and the other 7 time beings left their own legacies with the thought of nurturing new 13 tiers. The newly born time being is named Luo Ho. I had observed him before. The probability of breaking through the time loop was low. I didn't expect he really broke through in the end. Lord Mo spoke with emotion, regularly awakening to take a look, while also keeping an eye on whether there were any extraordinary great saints in the chaos void. He had paid attention to Luo Ho Great Saint, but at that time Luo Ho Great Saint was unremarkable and had a low probability of breaking through the time loop in the future. Theoretically, every being has the potential to break through the time loop, but since the chaos void's inception, only Lord Mo and the other 7 managed to break through the time loop successfully. A new 13 tier born at this moment is beneficial for our upcoming competition with the Taishu dimension. A time being with a human head and snake body said. In the Milky Way dimension, the heart of the heavenly river is about to be nurtured, and the time beings of the Taishu dimension had long arrived, forming a standoff with the 7 time beings of the chaos void. Both sides were tense, constantly observing the future timeline to increase their chances of winning the heart of the heavenly river. At this time, even the birth of a newly ascended time being in the chaos void is a certain help for the chaos void. At least it could ease the pressure on Lord Mo and the 7 time beings, as the 9 time beings of the Taishu dimension should not be underestimated. Indeed, Lord Mo nodded. Originally, it was the 7 time beings of the chaos void against the 9 time beings of the Taishu dimension. Now it is 8 versus 9. The gap is further narrowed. There is a time being in the Taishu dimension who needs the heart of the heavenly river to refine and repair the flesh, which is why they have sought to seize the heart of the heavenly river. Lord Mo thought to himself. Over the years, they had also figured out the real reason why the Taishu dimension sought the heart of the heavenly river. The heart of the heavenly river, besides refining to sense the fluctuations of the rule of time in the Milky Way dimension. It is essentially a unique treasure capable of refining the body, particularly benefiting those time beings following the water attribute path. The time being from the Taishu dimension developed an irreversible flaw in his bodily cultivation, urgently needed a unique treasure like the heart of the heavenly river to refine, so he set his target on the Milky Way dimension. As the time loop rapidly collapsed, a figure swiftly walked out from it. How many events have happened since time immemorial, turning everything into nothing but emptiness? Luo Ho appeared at the highest point of the chaos void, overlooking countless beings, with a hint of joy on his face. I, Luo Ho, have finally broken through the time loop. At this moment, Luo Ho was filled with emotion, having not held much hope before advancing to the 13 tier. How many invincible great saints have existed throughout time? How many ultimately became time beings? Even with the strength of an invincible great saint, he never swept the chaos void, unlike the invincible great saints of history, and had no possibility of becoming a time being. But at that moment, Luo Ho had reached the extreme, mastering that 13-tier legacy, which was already the limit, and could only proceed to break through to the 13 tier. Sigh. After breaking through the time loop, the essence of Luo Ho's life began to transform rapidly, simultaneously taking a breath. Instantly, the entire chaos void began to shake. The primordial lands fully opened, with boundless chaos void origin pouring down upon Luo Ho. Since understanding the rule of time, each breakthrough brings about a chaos void origin infusion. This was true from the 11th tier to the 12th tier and from the 12th tier to the 13th tier as well. Especially the latter, marking the transformation towards a time being, with a small half of the chaos void's origins pouring forth. What is this? This phenomenon is the sign of stepping into the 13-tier time being. Such a scale of chaos void origin infusion only appears when becoming a time being. The Chaos Great Saints and Unparalleled Great Saints watched this scene in shock. If each era doesn't give birth to an invincible Great Saint, then what about time life? It's even rarer to the extreme. Since the Chaos Void was born, tens of thousands of invincible Great Saints have appeared. But time life? Only 7. Many Great Saints live their entire lives without seeing an invincible Great Saint, let alone time life. Not to mention newly born time life, even those already born time life remain unseen. Who has become time life? The Galaxy Great Saint. Some Great Saints couldn't help but speculate. The Galaxy Great Saint is the invincible Great Saint of this era and the most likely to step into the 13th layer. It's not the Galaxy Great Saint. I have a causal connection with the Galaxy Great Saint. The one currently transforming into time life is not the Galaxy Great Saint. One Great Saint spoke up, having visited the Galaxy Chaos continent and met Lin Yuan, forming a causal link, confirming the being stepping into the 13th layer is not Lin Yuan. If it's not the Galaxy Great Saint, then it must be some hidden old fellow. That must be it. No one knows when the Galaxy Great Saint will step into the 13th layer. Although the Galaxy Great Saint is strong, whether he can become time life is uncertain. Indeed, even the strongest invincible Great Saint in history, so what? Did the previous strongest invincible Great Saint become time life? The Great Saints intensely debated, ever since Lin Yuan's abrupt emergence overshadowed all Great Saints of his age. And now with the birth of new time life, these Great Saints have begun comparing once again. Isn't your galaxy said to be the strongest invincible Great Saint of history? Yet, can you ultimately step into the 13th layer like this Great Saint and become time life? If you don't become time life, no matter how strong the power is, it's false, plunging eternally into the time cycle. Is this what time life is? The newly instated 13th layer Luo Ho felt his power frantically enhancing with a small half of Chaos Void origin infusion. Every moment his strength soared. When life essence elevated to a certain height, Luo Ho bowed his head to gaze. Faintly lines of time stretched and spread. Still somewhat unfamiliar. Luo Ho found slight difficulty in watching the timelines. Unsurprisingly, being new time life, even the strength isn't fully grasped watching future timelines. Naturally unfamiliar. Like a newborn baby unable to walk or run, even though walking and running are instinctual, being newly born with strength yet to grow how to walk. Luo Ho at this moment was much the same. Observing timelines for time life is instinctual, but instinct also needs gradual familiarization. After a long time, the Chaos Void origin infusion gradually ended. Luo Ho didn't retreat immediately to digest the accumulated origin within him. Instead his mind slightly moved, looking down towards various places in the Chaos Void. Galaxy Great Saint. Luo Ho felt an unprecedentedly strong urge to meet the Galaxy Great Saint. It wasn't due to any ill will or desire for revenge, but purely for the sake of meeting. At this moment, Luo Ho also realized that being able to smoothly break through the time cycle was related to the Galaxy Great Saint. If it weren't for the Galaxy Great Saint's intervention, shattering his obsession with proving invincible name, he wouldn't have survived the final pass in the time cycle. If he couldn't make it through, the longer time dragged on, the lesser chance of breaking through the time cycle. Now I am time life, even newly instated. I wouldn't fear a mere 12th layer life. Luo Ho was very confident, as new time life, despite his strength still unstable and his timeline observation stumbling. But time life is time life. Even a fraction of the quintillion strength can crush invincible Great Saints. This is the difference in life essence. There. After stepping into the 13th layer, Luo Ho's understanding of the causal avenue deepened, rapidly locating the Galaxy Great Saint's position through their cause. Of course, this was also due to Lin Yuan not intentionally concealing his cause. Whoosh! The next moment, Luo Ho's figure disappeared, appearing in a piece of desolate void. Galaxy! Luo Ho looked forward, only to see Lin Yuan with hands folded behind, standing in the void smiling at him, seemingly well prepared for his arrival. This startled Luo Ho, directly facing Lin Yuan. Sensing the vast power within this Galaxy Great Saint, Even he as time life couldn't compare to the vastness. Moreover, Luo Ho instinctively tried observing Lin Yuan's future timeline, but found it wasn't stumbling, but utterly obscure and empty. Luo Ho, congratulations on becoming time life. Lin Yuan smiled, looking at Luo Ho. You? Luo Ho actually felt a bit fearful. He could ascertain Lin Yuan wasn't time life. But not being time life, how could he be so strong? No need for comparison between you and me. Lin Yuan glanced at Luo Ho. If you don't become time life, you'd only feel I'm slightly stronger, invincible great saint, seeing me like looking up at the moon. If you become time life, you'll see me as witnessing the blue sky. Luo Ho looked at Lin Yuan, a hint of trance in his expression. Before becoming a time life form, when he saw Lin Yuan in action, a feeling of being unable to resist arose in his heart. Now, having become a time life form, facing the great saint of the galaxy, he still felt an unsurpassable sense of inadequacy. Please sit. Lin Yuan waved his hand, and the surroundings changed. He brought Luo Ho to a beautifully scenic estate. All right? Luo Ho couldn't help but be anxious. At this moment, he didn't even know whether it was he who had ascended to the 13th layer, or the great saint of the galaxy before him. How does it feel to be a time life form? Lin Yuan smiled as he looked at Luo Ho. Towards this newly promoted 13th layer, Lin Yuan was still quite friendly. Primarily because through observing future timelines, Lin Yuan saw that the other party bore no hostility towards him. This time, Luo Ho wasn't here to seek revenge or anything. He merely wanted to meet Lin Yuan. If Lin Yuan chose to conceal his strength and disguise himself as a normal, invincible great saint, Luo Ho might even bestow some opportunities as gratitude. This was the conclusion drawn from numerous observed timelines by Lin Yuan. However, at Lin Yuan's current level, the gifts from a newly advanced time lifeform were of no concern to him. Luo Ho, newly entered the 13th layer, was penniless, and his resources were far inferior to Lin Yuan's. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's inquiry, Luo Ho originally wanted to answer great. It was indeed great. After ascending to the 13th layer, Luo Ho felt everything had changed. It was as if he had ascended from 2 dimensions to 3. Life forms at the 12th layer and below appeared as fragile as paper. But thinking of the unfathomable depth of the great saint of the galaxy before him, the words great turned into not bad at the last moment. The essence of life has just transformed to the 13th layer. You need to seclude yourself to adapt. It's best not to fully attempt observing future timelines. Lin Yuan looked at Luo Ho with a teasing smile. At this moment, Luo Ho was trying his best to observe Lin Yuan's future timeline. This is also akin to a fearless rookie. A slightly more experienced time lifeform would realize what it means if a being's timeline is too blurred to be observed. Who would dare to continue peeping? Yes. Luo Ho was startled inside, also feeling that he was somewhat impulsive. He promptly ceased observing Lin Yuan's timeline. What time loop did you encounter? Lin Yuan casually asked as he looked at Luo Ho. The formation of time loops originates from the supreme rules of endless dimensional planes. Beyond the observation of timelines, even 13th layer time lifeforms and Time Lords cannot spy on them. Besides the one who experienced it, outsiders wouldn't know. Earlier, during a conversation with 7 time lifeforms from the Chaos Void, Lin Yuan learned the specific test of the time loop they experienced. Now that Luo Ho had just broken through the time loop, Lin Yuan was curious about what Luo Ho experienced in the time loop and what the test was. Each time loop faced by a 12th layer perfection is different, completely targeting their weaknesses. The time loop I fell into. Luo Ho's thoughts scattered, speaking in a slightly grave tone. In the time loop, I became a beggar, living in an era of chaos, unable to use any supernormal powers. Even the speed of thought was restricted to mundane levels. Besides having complete memories, there was no difference from an ordinary person. Luo Ho's expression revealed a trace of lingering fear. This differs from reincarnation, where although powers are lost, the rules one grasps remain. Even though still immortal, one can leverage rules to exert unimaginable strength. Within a time loop, unable to use any supernormal power truly means unable to use any supernormal power. to the extent of being unable to sense the fluctuations of any rule path. Furthermore, there was one hidden premise. That premise was lifespan. Without the augmentation of supernormal powers, a mundane lifespan is just a few decades. In a turbulent era, living past 30 was considered long-lived. What was the test? Lin Yuan asked. To end the chaos and establish a unified empire. Luo Ho said. I was merely a beggar, without backing, unable to wield any strength, even on the verge of starving to death. Yet I was required to end the chaotic era and establish a unified empire? Indeed very challenging, and also very targeted. Lin Yuan nodded. He had seen Luo Ho's past timelines, understanding that this newly promoted time life form spent long years immersed in cultivation, uninterested in external affairs. As for recruiting troops, gathering followers, it was something he had never done, nor considered. Under the premise of a mundane lifespan of mere decades, if Luo Ho didn't pass the test before his lifespan ended, he would have his memory of this loop erased and start anew. Normally, if one can't pass the test in the first loop, they won't be able to pass it in subsequent loops. Luo Ho's greatest strength was cultivation. He was willing to endure countless torments for the sake of training in that 13th layer inheritance. But in the time loop, there was no test of his cultivation, but rather a test in an area he had never engaged with. How did you finally pass the test? Lin Yuan continued to ask. I spent 50 years, going through countless hardships, surviving one life and death crisis after another, and finally unified half the land, about to have a decisive battle with my great enemy. As long as I won, I could pass the test and establish a unified empire. Luo Ho said. Did you win? Lin Yuan looked at Luo Ho. No, I didn't win. Luo Ho shook his head. In that final decisive battle, I lost miserably. All my important followers died, and even I was captured alive. I was already 60 years old at the time, and could live for at most 20 more years. Having lost that decisive battle, even if I were to start over, I could never return to my peak, especially since I had been captured alive. Luo Ho's tone carried a touch of poignancy. Lin Yuan listened quietly. Yet, my great enemy seemed unwilling for me to die comfortably. Surprisingly, he didn't kill me but imprisoned me, torturing me daily. Actually, this wasn't any different from directly killing me. At that time, I was completely despondent, just an ordinary being. A 60-year-old man with declining vitality, spirit, and energy, and imprisoned. To be frank, I had planned to end it all, start anew in a fresh cycle, and escape the final humiliation. Luo Ho looked at Lin Yuan and said, but at the brink of suicide, I suddenly realized that for individuals like us, mere humiliation means nothing. As long as we are alive, as long as the ordeal hasn't ended, there is still hope. My great enemy came to torment me daily. I endured it, and 10 years passed just like that. With my physical condition at the time, I could live for at most 5 more years. That was when a turning point occurred. Though the forces I had established were scattered after that initial decisive battle, some remnants survived. At great cost, these remnants infiltrated the palace and finally contacted me, aiming to rescue me. However, given my situation at the time, even if I were rescued, I wouldn't have lived much longer. On the contrary, within that palace, there was still a final glimmer of hope. Thus, I orchestrated an assassination plot and successfully murdered my great enemy, and on the corpse of his established dynasty, I founded my own. This dynasty was established in the final month of my life, after which I successfully broke through the time cycle. Luo Ho said. Not easy. Lin Yuan nodded. In truth, it was more than just difficult. Since Luo Ho had fallen into the time cycle, he faced life and death danger every moment. In chaotic times, just surviving as a beggar was miraculous, let alone founding a dynasty. Furthermore, failing the final decisive battle was a cruel blow, and even when seeing the turning point, there was no certainty in seizing it, nor ensuring his followers remained loyal. I endured 10 years of torment from my great enemy after failing the final decisive battle. The reason I could endure was my realization that so-called reputation and honor are fleeting and mean nothing. Luo Ho looked gratefully at Lin Yuan. He actively abandoned his obsession and relinquished the title of Invincible Great Saint, which was key to persisting through the time cycle. Time cycle. Lin Yuan once again felt the difficulty of the time cycle. No wonder, throughout the long ages of the Chaos Void, only 7 time lifeforms have ultimately broken through the time cycle, while countless beings in the Chaos Realm remain trapped within it. Galaxy, you? Luo Ho looked at Lin Yuan, wanting to speak but hesitating. I'm also preparing to reach the 13th layer. Lin Yuan lightly shook his head, just uncertain what the time cycle that traps me will be. Indeed, Luo Ho understood the answer he sought. This unfathomable great saint of the galaxy was still not at the 13th layer. With your foundation, Galaxy, your chances of breaking through the time cycle are likely far greater than mine. Luo Ho quickly said. For him, breaking through the time cycle held slim hope, but for someone like Lin Yuan, who wasn't yet a time life form, it imposed immense pressure on him. Luo Ho couldn't even dare to consider it. Next, Lin Yuan chatted briefly with Luo Ho, this newly advanced time life form, giving some casual pointers. Though Luo Ho was already a time life form, he had just crossed the threshold, and Lin Yuan's realm level fully qualified him to offer guidance. Half a day later, Luo Ho left Lin Yuan, feeling somewhat disoriented. After breaking through the time cycle and becoming a time life form, he came to find Lin Yuan at once, originally planning to offer pointers to this invincible great saint who had indirectly helped him. Instead, he found himself a time life form being guided. Monster! Luo Ho pondered the moments he shared facing Lin Yuan, the overwhelming presence that left him trembling. How does a 12th layer being become so powerful? Luo Ho couldn't comprehend, nor could he understand. He was acutely aware of the disparity in his strength compared to before breaking through. Such disparity, achieved through crossing into the 13th layer, transforming life essence, and bearing the infusion of Chaos Void origin. How did Lin Yuan cross over this? And Lin Yuan not only crossed over, but seemed to subtly surpass him. While Luo Ho pondered quickly, 7 majestic figures descended the 7-time lifeforms of the Chaos Void. Luo Ho, congratulations on reaching the 13th layer. Lord Mo Su at the forefront looked at Luo Ho with a smile. Greetings, everyone. Luo Ho quickly returned the gesture. Although everyone was a time life form, he was recently advanced. Facing these 7 seasoned, ancient time life forms, he dared not be presumptuous. You just went to see Galaxy? Lord Mo Su glanced at the place Luo Ho emerged from and asked. Yes. Luo Ho's heart shook, suddenly realizing he couldn't fathom Lin Yuan's power. But these 7 ancient time lifeforms certainly knew more than him. The great saint of the galaxy's strength. Luo Ho immediately voiced his confusion, though Lin Yuan once told him there's no need for comparison. Yet Luo Ho couldn't help but be curious. The strength of the galaxy? Lord Mo Su fell silent. The 6 other time lifeforms did the same. In truth, it wasn't silence but uncertainty in how to explain. The galaxy cannot be bound by conventional theory. He is bound to become a time lifeform, even destined to become a Time Lord. Lord Mo Su said. Bound to become a time lifeform? Even destined to become a Time Lord? Luo Ho felt a shock at heart. To be bound to become a time lifeform, he understood the meaning. It meant certain success in breaking through the time cycle. Though such matters are almost unheard of, just recalling the pressure Lin Yuan imposed on him, Luo Ho could barely accept it. But destined to become a Time Lord? A Time Lord is a 13th layer, 3rd realm existence, such a life form that has already begun to consolidate its timeline. How could it be destined? You didn't collide with Galaxy just now, right? Lord Mo Su asked. No. Luo Ho replied immediately. He didn't intend to do so, especially after sensing the pressure Lin Yuan gave him. Luo Ho chose to lower his head, not daring to collide. That's good. Lord Mo Su nodded. You'll understand the matters of the galaxy in due time. Now quickly stabilize your realm's strength. That Milky Way dimension greatly needs you. Lord Mo Su said. All right, Luo Ho responded, nodding. After meeting with Luo Ho, this newly advanced time life form, Lin Yuan vanished, returning to the chaos continent of the galaxy. Before the attempt at the 13th layer, have a good sleep. Lin Yuan thought to himself, wondering how long to sleep? 2,000 years. Since embarking on the path of cultivation, becoming an evolver, Lin Yuan had never rested well. Before crossing into the 12th layer, human civilization faced pressures from alien races and the chaos void. Lin Yuan dared not pause. After crossing into the 12th layer, it was the same. Lin Yuan was either cultivating or comprehending Tao. Though with Lin Yuan's strength, both his physical body and soul were in excellent condition, knowing no fatigue. Yet before attempting the 13th layer, Lin Yuan simply wanted to sleep. The preparation he could make, the foundation accumulation he needed, he had already achieved and acquired. Sleep, sleep. Lin Yuan slowly closed his eyes with numerous avatars, the true body of the first origin source world, and the true body of the second origin source world, all falling into slumber. This slumber is deep. Unless threatened from outside, all mind and soul remain in an immersed, detached state. Lin Yuan's slumber didn't impact the chaos void much. Even when awake, he mostly didn't intervene in chaos void affairs. As time passed slowly, it reached 2,000 years later, when Lin Yuan awoke from his slumber, preparing to attempt the 13th layer. 2,000 years of slumber. Lin Yuan's mind and will relaxing unprecedentedly, spreading freely. Lin Yuan exerted no suppression or control, allowing this dispersion to proceed. A thread of mind will drifted for an unknown duration, seemingly entering a certain layer of dream territory, arriving in an incredibly majestic and grand palace. The palace was infinitely tall and grand, its tiers of stairs leading to an unknown destination. Here, this thread of Lin Yuan's mind was devoid of thoughts or questions, devoid of any doubts or concerns. Instinctively, it simply followed the endless staircase, ascending step by step, unknown how much time had passed. Finally reaching the end of the stairs, behold, a grand and majestic luminous gate stood there, its existence seemingly the source of everything, silently influencing timelines, dimensional realms, and myriad beings. And at the threshold of the luminous gate, a blurred figure leaned against it. The blurred figure's visage indiscernible. Lin Yuan could only faintly make out the figure supporting its chin with the right hand, eyes closed, as if asleep. It seemed to lean against that incredibly majestic luminous gate, yet the aura it faintly emanated surpassed the gate itself, the slight fluctuation of its breath sweeping through countless timelines, universal wonders, and endless dimensional planes birthed within its breath. Boom! The next moment, Lin Yuan awoke. Lin Yuan's expression slightly surprised. That dream, 2,000 years of sleep, Lin Yuan's mind will infinitely dispersed, resulted in many ridiculously absurd dreams. Yet this experience within an endlessly tall palace, and that towering, luminous gate, the blurred figure leaning against it uneasily hit Lin Yuan with significant impact. Is it a delusional dream or... Lin Yuan felt a bit uncertain and wondered whether this dream was true or false, though the majestic luminous gate bore some likeness to the Myriad Realms gate deep in his mind. Was it the Myriad Realms gate affecting me? Lin Yuan contemplated, vaguely sensing this dream was far from simple, potentially containing some hint that the blurred figure leaning against the majestic luminous gate might be the previous master of the Myriad Realms gate. Could it possibly be just a simple dream? Lin Yuan's thoughts shifted. Though he acknowledged the dream, he didn't dwell too much on it. He let go completely of the dreams his mind will experienced, which were incredibly absurd, including countless fantasies. If not for this dream's luminous gate bearing some semblance to the Myriad Realms gate in his mind, Lin Yuan wouldn't have cared. It's merely a dream after all. Time to strive for the 13-stage breakthrough. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts. After completely sleeping for 2,000 years, Lin Yuan felt in an unprecedentedly good state. This good wasn't an invigorated state, but rather a satisfaction of a different sort. Like someone who had starved for long suddenly enjoying a feast. Let's bid farewell first. Lin Yuan's thoughts moved slightly. This time with the 13-stage breakthrough, who knows how long it would take. In the numerous future timelines, Lin Yuan's ultimate breakthrough during the time cycle remained uncertain. It could be a few hundred years, or it might span across thousands of years. If calculated in thousands of years, he indeed should bid farewell to his family and friends before attempting the breakthrough. Since humanity has only spanned a few thousand years transitioning from their native universe till now. Galaxy Chaos Continent. 9 Shenyuan supreme beings from the Homeland Universe period appeared together. Galaxy U? Shenyuan Supreme Xiaqin observed the figure standing not far off. I've already decided to immediately attempt the 13-stage breakthrough. Lin Yuan spoke, looking at Xiaqin and the other 9 supremes. Attempt the 13-stage breakthrough? Shenyuan Supreme Xiaqin's expression subtly shifted. Though recently, a time life form appeared in the chaos void. That doesn't elevate the probability of crossing into the 13th stage. On the contrary, the likelihood of achieving 13th stage in the chaos realm had always been slim. Even though Lin Yuan had constantly brought countless miracles, Shenyuan Supreme Xiaqin still couldn't shake the worry from his heart. Could you delay the attempt? Shenyuan Supreme was equally concerned, feeling that delaying the attempt might allow for further accumulation, augmenting the final assurance. Time matters not early or late. Lin Yuan shook his head. He's reached the peak in every aspect now. Even waiting millions of years, his strength wouldn't witness a qualitative change. Moreover, Lin Yuan's probability of crossing into the 13th stage was still absolutely certain. Since you, Galaxy, have decided, proceed with the attempt then. Shenyuan Supreme Xiaqin steadied himself and spoke. Barring unexpected events, within a span of thousands of years, I will step into the 13th stage. Lin Yuan spoke calmly as he eyed the 9 supremes. But if an unexpected event arises, and I don't appear after more than 10,000 years, human civilization should implement the ultimate plan. Lin Yuan stated. Currently, all future timelines he observed led to the 13th stage. Yet the worst scenario must be prepared for, since what Lin Yuan observed couldn't reflect all timelines, making direct determination of becoming a time life form uncertain. Human civilization's ultimate plan would hinge upon Lin Yuan's failure in the 13th stage breakthrough, resulting in being trapped in time cycle. Then human civilization would maintain low profile, consolidate strength, supported by 33 postnatal universes as the ultimate foundation, ensuring prosperous future for civilization. All right, Shenyuan Supreme and other 9 supremes nodded in silence. Homeland Universe. Shenhuang's Secret Realm. Lin Yuan's avatar sat cross-legged, opened his eyes. Master! The 6-armed figure of the Secret Realm spirit promptly looked at Lin Yuan. This universe hasn't entered rebirth, hasn't yet evolved myriad beings. The 6-armed figure instantly remarked. He assumed Lin Yuan intended to observe the evolution of principles and paths as the natural universe transitioned from destruction to rebirth. I know. Lin Yuan glanced outside the secret realm. It will enter rebirth in 36 million years, and 1360 million years later, the first being will come into existence. Ah! The 6-armed silhouette of the secret realm spirit blinked upon hearing this. He had experienced the great cosmic destructions time and again, and he knew that the time of cosmic destruction and rebirth was essentially uncertain, depending on various influences. Especially when this universe was prematurely destroyed due to the clash of 2 chaos great saints, making it even more difficult to determine when a new birth would occur. Yet Lin Yuan not only stated the time of new birth, but also confirmed the time of the first life form's emergence. How is this possible? The 6-armed silhouette of the secret realm spirit felt mystified in his heart but dared not ask more. I should leave now. This avatar of Lin Yuan stood up. Leave. The 6-armed silhouette was even more puzzled. This avatar in the Shenhuang secret realm could serve as a life-saving measure, so why leave? I'm about to attempt the 13th layer, and all mental wills must return to the true self. Lin Yuan rarely explained. When making a complete breakthrough from the 12th to the 13th layer, it is best to gather all mental wills. As for not gathering them, it doesn't have much impact. The Moyu Tower Master also left a trace of mental will in the Demon Jade space before attempting the 13th layer. But the meaning isn't very significant. Just a trace of mental will can't exert any strength, and it must forcibly fall into the time loop just after awakening. Attempt the 13th layer? The six-armed silhouette was somewhat stunned. Attempt the 13th layer? Lin Yuan. Hasn't Lin Yuan just left his home universe for long? And he's already attempting the 13th layer? If all goes well, you should be able to see your majesty. Lin Yuan smiled slightly and then dispersed this avatar. With his current strength, the iron rule of natural universes forbidding the entry of foreign life is ineffective. If Lin Yuan wants to enter a natural universe, he can enter one of the 33 postnatal universes, on a planet filled with greenery. Lin Shouqing and Lu Qiong were vacationing here. At that moment, Lin Yuan's figure appeared. Xiao Yuan. Lu Qiong immediately called out. It's been a long time since you looked for us. Lu Qiong said somewhat accusingly. Yes, we haven't even seen you in the virtual world. Lin Shouqing added beside her. I've been in seclusion for 2,000 years, Lin Yuan said with a smile. In these 2,000 years of deep sleep, he contacted no one, not even family. How have you been? Lin Yuan casually asked. Not bad, but a bit dull, just playing around every day, Lin Shouqing said. This universe is too large, Lu Qiong also said. If you feel bored, contact Little Spirit. She'll introduce you to more fun things, Lin Yuan said with a smile. Little Spirit, that is the spirit of this postnatal universe. The 33 postnatal universes, each vast, equivalent to the size of thousands upon tens of thousands of void domains. Moreover, they nurture countless uniquely characteristic planets. Even if Lin Shouqing and Lu Qiong played until the Chaos Void's great destruction, they wouldn't encounter the same planet twice. Besides various planets, there are many entertainment areas, making this postnatal universe a place where countless lives are born, prepared specifically for Lin Yuan's family. After this, I need to enter seclusion again. Not sure how long it will be, Lin Yuan said. No problem, Xiao Yuan. Your cultivation is most important, Lin Shouqing and Lu Qiong immediately said, knowing that at Lin Yuan's level, a seclusion of 1 million or 10 million years is extremely normal. Lin Yuan nodded. He continued chatting with his parents for a while. Lin Yuan then dispersed this avatar. All mental wills dispersed throughout the chaos void would return to the true self. The two true selves from the first and second source worlds also completely gathered many avatars. Although the three true selves are independent causally, this cannot be hidden from the supreme Tao rules. Once choosing to attempt the 13th layer, all true selves would fall into the time loop. Only by fully breaking through the time loop can they return. Chaos Void. Lin Yuan stepped out, leaving the galaxy Chaos Continent, standing in a desolate void somewhere. Let's begin. Lin Yuan's gaze was calm as he released the suppression on his own life's essence. And losing Lin Yuan's suppression, his life's essence began naturally elevating, raising to a certain extent, and threads of time power started condensing, continuously surrounding Lin Yuan. A vast amount of time power continuously gathered, until the time loop belonging to Lin Yuan descended. P.S. It's the end of the month. If you don't vote for the monthly ticket, it'll expire. Begging for a wave of monthly tickets. I'm begging. The upcoming time loop should be very interesting. The length won't be long. The above 5 elements are free of charge. The power of time flows like water, creating ripples upon ripples, dragging Lin Yuan's physical form towards the depths of the chaos void. Under the pull of the time power that has begun to cycle, Lin Yuan's mental will quickly becomes blurred, completely losing control over the external world. Just as Lin Yuan's physical form plunges into the deepest part of the chaos void, into the region of time cycles where all chaos realm beings attempting to break through to the 13th stage have invariably found themselves. Dong, a brand new time cycle region, unprecedented and far surpassing the collective sum of all existing time cycle regions, begins to rapidly take shape. The new time cycle region is boundless. Compared to the time cycle regions that other perfected chaos realm beings are trapped in, which can be likened to a pebble, the newly emerged time cycle region is a stellar entity, vast and illuminating all corners. The gathering of time power and the upheaval in the deepest part of the chaos void did not go unnoticed by the time beings. Lord Mo-Su and others at the 13th stage were already extraordinarily concerned about Lin Yuan, and upon detecting the anomaly in the power of time, they realized that Lin Yuan was beginning to break through to the 13th stage. The galaxy is finally going to break through. The chaos void is about to give birth to the 9th time being. One by one, the time beings felt a sense of joy. First, the unexpected delight of Luo Ho's ascent to the 13th stage, and now Lin Yuan, whom they hold in high esteem, is also beginning to break through to the 13th stage. According to the previously observed future timeline, Lin Yuan's becoming a time being is a certainty. Very soon. Many time beings also observed the changes in the time cycle region in the deepest part of the chaos void. Especially the newly emerged region, which encompasses almost all time cycle regions, causing the time beings to widen their eyes. The time cycle the galaxy has fallen into, the resulting cycle region, is too vast. A time being could not help but exclaim. When a perfected chaos realm being attempts the 13th stage and is trapped in a time cycle, there are variations in size. It specifically depends on the power realm of this perfected chaos realm being. For example, when a great saint of unparalleled might attempts the 13th stage, the resulting time cycle region is much larger than that of an ordinary chaos great saint. And when an invincible great saint attempts the 13th stage, the resulting time cycle region is even larger than that of the great saint. But Lin Yuan? When Lin Yuan attempts the 13th stage, the time cycle he falls into results in a cycle region that is beyond merely immense. All previous cycle regions combined do not equal 1/1000th of the cycle region formed by Lin Yuan, truly terrifying. Though the time beings present had long anticipated this, having observed Lin Yuan's prowess in the future timeline, they hadn't expected the final time cycle region formed to be this infinitely vast. The size of a time cycle region most intuitively reflects the strength of a being. This is the supreme law of the infinite dimensional planes, the ultimate appraisal of a being. Galaxy! Luo Ho was equally dumbfounded. He had just broken through a time cycle not long ago, aware of the size of the cycle region he was trapped in. In comparison to Lin Yuan's time cycle region, the glow of a firefly and the brightness of a bright moon would be praises, indeed. This signifies the former's strength to exceed Luo Ho's understanding. It may even surpass the understanding of veteran and seasoned time beings like Lord Mo-Su. Could the galaxy's strength, having just crossed into the 13th stage, surpass mine already? Lord Mo-Su, observing the endlessly vast brand new time cycle region, couldn't help but let this thought surface in his mind. He was the first time being born in the chaos void, with a deep accumulation in the first realm of the 13th stage. Usually, newly advanced 13th stage beings are not his match. Considering Lin Yuan's nearly certain future timeline as a Time Lord, Lord Mo-Su had no doubt that the other would surpass him. But that would be after hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions of years of being a time being. In fact, hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions of years is considered extremely short for a time being. Just having become a time being, without having adapted to the surge of power, one cannot wield the true power of the 13th stage. Yet now, observing the brand new time cycle region, Lord Mo-Su was a bit uncertain. Lin Yuan's perception was exceedingly blurred, only sensing his mental will perpetually falling. Young master, hold on a little longer, soon I will shake them off. Young master, you rest here for a while, I'll go distract them. Young master, I'm back. It's safe now. Young master, wake up. If you die, how will I account to the old master? Lin Yuan vaguely heard some voices, instinctively understanding their meaning, yet due to his overly weak mental will, he couldn't wake up and was forced to remain asleep. As time passed, Lin Yuan's consciousness gradually began to recover. Although still far from its full state, he could at least try to receive more external information. Finally, one day, Lin Yuan very laboriously opened his eyes. The light was somewhat glaring, but Lin Yuan didn't care about that, as a flood of memories began to surge in his mind. The Defeng dynasty rules the world, and my identity is the young master of the Red Lotus sect? The Red Lotus sect aims for rebellion as its ultimate goal, wishing to overthrow the Defeng dynasty's rule, thus receiving the full force suppression from the Defeng dynasty. My father, the Red Lotus sect leader, died not long ago in a court siege, and an old servant under my father's command risked his life to save me? Lin Yuan understood, roughly comprehending his situation. The Defeng dynasty, ruling over 99 provinces, is currently at its peak, with the previous 6 generations of Defeng emperors having governed diligently, producing countless renowned ministers and generals. However, any dynasty will have factions that seek rebellion and treason, among which the Red Lotus sect is one. The founder of the Red Lotus sect was a remnant of the previous dynasty, inherently standing in opposition to the Defeng dynasty. In the face of the extraordinarily prosperous Defeng dynasty, the Red Lotus sect struggles even to preserve its existence, let alone incite the populace to rebel. Recently, the contemporary Red Lotus sect leader was even killed by the court. Following the normal course, even if the Red Lotus sect is not completely eradicated in the future, it would merely linger on like a rat in the gutter. This world. Lin Yuan began to carefully sense the nuances around him. Though his mental strength was at an unprecedentedly weak state, his realm remained intact. There are no fluctuations of any grand Tao rules, and the physical body possesses insurmountable limitations. Lin Yuan felt a heaviness in his heart. The absence of grand Tao rule fluctuations indicated that the upper bound of the strongest combat power in this world was not high. The insurmountable limitations on the physical body restrained Lin Yuan's strongest attribute. Under such circumstances, even opening up an internal world or advancing to the first stage on the martial arts evolution road seemed nearly impossible. However, extraordinary powers are not completely prohibited. This world has those who have entered Tao. Lin Yuan mused secretly. This was the secret known to him as the young master of the Red Lotus sect. Those who have entered Tao explore spiritual power, using it as a medium to leverage the power of heaven and earth. There are 3 levels among those who have entered Tao: entering Tao Master, entering Tao Magician, entering Tao Heavenly Master. However, spiritual power originates from the physical body, and with its growth limited, it's impossible to nurture a significantly powerful spiritual power. Without strong spiritual power, the borrowed power of heaven and earth would not be impressive either. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. According to the information he had, even the strongest entering Tao Heavenly Master couldn't last long if encircled by 1,000-strong military formation. Once the spiritual power is exhausted, there would be no defense against being chopped into meat paste. As for those who have entered Tao, they appear godlike to ordinary people, effortlessly handling mundane martial artists. But when faced with the regular army of the court, not running means death. The armor and weapons equipped by the court's regular army were all meant to counteract spiritual power. 10 soldiers working together could confidently kill an entering Tao individual. Of course, the most terrifying are the entering Tao individuals who have joined the army. With the full support of the court, the strength an entering Tao individual could exhibit would be several to 10 times that of normal. In front of the Defeng dynasty, ordinary entering Tao individuals are incredibly weak. But in reality, as long as entering Tao individuals don't oppose the court, they can live exceedingly well. The court would not specifically target entering Tao individuals, as it itself sought to recruit them. Especially entering Tao Heavenly Masters, who, even when facing a fully armed 1,000-strong formation, would not die as long as their spiritual power wasn't exhausted, attesting to their strength. Lin Yuan's father in this body, who was also the contemporary sect leader of the Red Lotus sect, possessed only the ordinary entering Tao strength. Basically, in the martial world, entering Tao individuals already belong to the peak battle strength. Entering Tao magicians? Entering Tao Heavenly Masters? Rarely seen. The time loop I've entered this time. The test is To assassinate the emperor of the Defeng dynasty. Lin Yuan frowned. An emperor of a dynasty undoubtedly holds the highest position, surrounded by the strongest protective forces. With Defeng dynasty's current national power, even if 10 or 100 entering Dao heavenly masters dared to rush into the imperial palace to assassinate the emperor, they were certainly doomed. Not to mention the most elite imperial guard protecting the palace, the Defeng dynasty itself had cultivated a large number of entering Dao individuals, among whom there certainly were entering Dao heavenly masters. With the Defeng dynasty's resources, scouring the world for various entering Dao methods and recruiting individuals with the talent for entering Dao, the probability of producing true entering Dao individuals would not be low. Over time, the strength of the Defeng dynasty is imaginable. Under such circumstances, attempting to assassinate the Defeng emperor is akin to an impossible task. However, here the impossibility targets the inhabitants of this world. For Lin Yuan, it doesn't seem as difficult. Not that it's not difficult, at least compared to the time loops that those time lifeforms were trapped in, the test this time could be deemed simple. Take Luo Ho as an example. The test in his time loop was to establish a brand new unified dynasty. Assassinating the emperor of a unified dynasty compared to overthrowing a dynasty and establishing a new unified dynasty. The latter is certainly more difficult. There are many ways to assassinate a dynasty's emperor. Poison, assassination, ambush, and so on. At least, the test Lin Yuan faces does not limit the means of assassination. As long as the Defeng emperor dies by his hand, whether directly or indirectly. But to establish a new unified dynasty, it requires absolute strength and control over subordinates. Mere strength alone makes it difficult to establish a new unified dynasty smoothly. Not to mention Luo Ho's time loop, where the decisive battle took a significant turn, with the most crucial battle unexpectedly lost, and only a comeback made because he never gave up. From Lin Yuan's outsider perspective on Luo Ho's time loop test, he vaguely reached a conclusion. That Luo Ho had no chance of winning the most crucial battle. He was destined to lose. Losing the crucial battle and getting captured by the archenemy was also part of the test. Persisting, enduring 10 years of torture without giving up, and then seizing a crucial opportunity, was also part of the test. Compared to Luo Ho's time loop, the time loop test Lin Yuan currently faces is far too easy. Just assassinate the Defeng emperor? There must be a problem. Lin Yuan's expression turned slightly grim. As it stands, the time loops test won't be simple. What looks simple is merely the fact that he hasn't yet discovered its difficulty. Could it be that the Defeng emperor is an entering Dao heavenly master? Lin Yuan pondered quietly, knowing that the strongest individual power in this world is an entering Dao heavenly master. The army could kill a heavenly master by sheer numbers and weapon advantages. In reality, entering Dao heavenly masters are powerful, and even when faced with the army, they could retreat unscathed as long as they don't initiate the assault. If an entering Dao heavenly master wanted to escape, hiding in Dashan, even tens of thousands of troops would be at a loss. Meanwhile, Defeng Dynasty capital city Imperial Palace. Upon the imperial throne sat a young man, the 7th generation emperor of the Defeng Dynasty. At this moment, the young emperor's eyes shimmered peculiarly. My primordial spirit descends upon this world, experiencing the final trial among 10,008,000 tribulations. Once it's surpassed, I can take that step. The young emperor pondered. The 10,008,000 tribulations. The first one is the easiest, each subsequent one becoming increasingly harder. The last trial I faced nearly ended in failure, barely overcoming it after exhausting everything, so logically, this final tribulation should far exceed the last in difficulty. The young emperor's expression turned odd. But the way to surpass this tribulation is to live past 150 years? To merely live past 150 years? And my identity as the most powerful and highest status emperor in this world? Even the simplest first trial shouldn't be this easy. The young emperor stood, observing his surroundings quietly. The palace maids and eunuchs were deferential, and hidden were several entering Dao magicians protecting him. As an emperor, naturally, His side consisted of subordinates absolutely loyal to him. In this world, the physical bodies of life are frail, with no potential for enhancement, yet living past 150 years shouldn't be a problem. The young emperor carefully sensed his physical state, confirming that living another 150 years was simple, and he could even keenly sense the limit of his lifespan. 153 years later. In this world, even becoming an entering Tao individual doesn't significantly enhance lifespan. Entering Tao heavenly masters couldn't break through the lifespan limit either. The last trial among the 10,008,000 tribulations couldn't be so easy. The young emperor stood contemplative, without a hint of underestimation. "Young master, you're awake?" As Lin Yuan was deep in thought, a voice filled with surprise reached his ears. Lin Yuan looked up to see an elderly man with a slight hunchback, gazing at him with excitement. The hunchbacked old man's hair was gray and disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, as though he hadn't rested for a long time. Yet, his whole being emanated a cold, sinister aura, much like a venomous snake waiting to strike. But when the hunchbacked old man looked at Lin Yuan, his gaze was devoid of any coldness, filled only with joy. "Uncle 3. Lin Yuan nodded towards the hunchbacked old man. In name, the hunchbacked old man was the old servant of Lin Yuan's father, the leader of the Red Lotus sect. In reality, they shared an unbreakable bond, addressing each other as brothers in private, and Lin Yuan called the hunchbacked elder Uncle 3. This time, Lin Yuan was able to escape the court's encirclement thanks largely to his father's diversion of most of the attention. It was also the result of the hunchbacked old man's desperate efforts to save him, finally using himself as bait to lure away the court's pursuers. Without the hunchbacked old man, Lin Yuan wouldn't have woken up at all. "Young master, the old master is dead." The hunchbacked old man's eyes showed pain as he spoke softly. Lin Yuan nodded. He too appeared somewhat heavy-hearted. With the death of the Red Lotus sect leader, the court's pursuit target now fell entirely upon him. Even with the hunchbacked old man's desperate protection, surviving would undoubtedly be difficult. "But with me here, young master can rest assured," the hunchbacked old man declared solemnly. "Even if I die, I will die before the young master." "Don't speak such disheartening words." Lin Yuan shook his head and asked, "What do you plan to do next?" Compared to his former self, the hunchbacked old man surely had more experience. "I plan to take the young master to the Red Lotus sect's Yong State branch. It should still be safe there, out of the court's reach for now," the hunchbacked old man replied in a steady voice. "The Red Lotus sect's Yong State branch?" Lin Yuan nodded slightly. In his memory, the branch leader of this place was loyal to his father. Now that the Red Lotus sect leader had died in the court's extermination, the sect's members were filled with fear. At this time, turning to the Yong State branch did seem like a good choice. "Then young master should rest for a while. We'll set out once night falls." With that, the hunchbacked old man stood up and left, needing to patrol the surroundings to prevent the pursuers from getting close. Watching the hunchbacked old man disappear, Lin Yuan slowly stood up. He began to scrutinize himself. "Martial ancestor. Martial ancestor. Martial ancestor." Faint calls echoed subtly. These calls, are they from cultivators on the martial arts evolution road? Have they now formed a stable Tao mark, making me realize that I am presently within a time loop? Lin Yuan settled his mind. In reality, without these vague calls, some Chaos Realm entities could get lost in the time loop, losing all their power and insight into the rules, often leading to a disaster of getting lost. Especially after the first cycle ends and the second begins, memories related to the first cycle are erased. Without external Tao marks or anchors for confirmation, an endless repetition typically begins. But now, at least through these faint calls from the outside, Lin Yuan confirmed that he's still experiencing the first cycle. With this confirmed, Lin Yuan immediately focused his mind, delving into the depths of his consciousness. The empty depths of his mind stood a majestic and grand myriad realms gate. Indeed, even a time loop cannot sever my connection with the myriad realms gate. Lin Yuan felt relieved. Time loops isolate everything, and currently, the only way to barely connect with life within the loop is by propagating one's evolution path, similar to the faint calling Lin Yuan heard. Besides this, there's no other way to contact any life within a time loop. But apparently, the Myriad Realms Gate is not under this restriction. Lin Yuan could still see the Myriad Realms Gate deep within his mind. And unlike the faint calls, the Myriad Realms Gate remained flawlessly palpable, as though there was no distinction between being inside or outside the time loop. Let's see if I can use the world-breaking origin force. Lin Yuan began trying. In an instant, the Myriad Realms Gate started to emit a faint glow. Streams of mysterious energy flowed, intending to descend upon this cycle world. It can be used. Lin Yuan nodded, his mind conjuring up one thought once more. Kill the emperor of the Defeng dynasty. The world-breaking origin force was the only omnipotent force Lin Yuan had come into contact with. Theoretically, Lin Yuan could do anything by harnessing the world-breaking origin force, including completely killing a time-based life form. Of course, the premise is that the amount of world-breaking origin force is sufficient. With enough of it, not just completely killing a time-based being, but even a Time Lord could be dealt with. However, the world-breaking origin force required to kill a Time Lord would be as vast as mountains and seas, far exceeding Lin Yuan's current reservoir. Not to mention completely killing a Time Lord, even killing a time-based being, Lin Yuan's current horde of world-breaking origin force is also far from adequate. But now, Lin Yuan doesn't intend to kill a 13th stage time-based life form. Instead, he targets a mundane entity of this world, at most an entering Tao master. It shouldn't consume much of the world-breaking origin force. Buzzing the Myriad Realms Gate constantly emitted an inexplicable aura, soon transmitting a message into Lin Yuan's mind. 4 million world-breaking origin force. Lin Yuan's expression was grim. So much. To kill a mere mortal, it actually cost so much world-breaking origin force? Is it that the mortal was unusual, or is the time loop a barrier, making the cost of killing greatly increase? Lin Yuan thought quickly in his heart. All the world-breaking origin force he had accumulated so far barely exceeded 4 million. This included undergoing a cosmic cataclysm, absorbing an immense amount of world-breaking origin force to accumulate. If he hadn't experienced the cosmic cataclysm, he estimated it would take millions or billions of years to gather so much world-breaking origin force. Better wait. Lin Yuan thought about it and did not immediately choose to use all his world-breaking origin force to kill the Defeng Emperor. The world-breaking origin force within the Myriad Realms Gate was Lin Yuan's ultimate trump card. He was sure he wouldn't use it unless necessary. It was meant for survival at critical moments. Regarding the time loop, even without the Myriad Realms Gate, could Lin Yuan not break through? Even if he really couldn't break through, he would use it at the last moment. At least for now, Lin Yuan could see the possibility of killing the Defeng Emperor on his own. With my foundation, the potential to break the time loop is much greater than the other 12-layer consummates. Lin Yuan had this confidence. The world-breaking origin force within the Myriad Realms Gate could only be the ultimate means. Unless he truly couldn't break the time loop, then he'd use it. But now, Lin Yuan intended to attempt his own method to break the time loop imprisoning him. Rune. As Lin Yuan's mind moved, countless tiny runes gathered and intertwined before him. As an inheritance left by a Time Lord, cultivating to the ultimate realm, even within a time loop, they could be used, partially breaking the rules of the time loop. Suppressed. Looking at the runes in front of him, Lin Yuan could feel the suppression on the rune Dao. But this was within Lin Yuan's expectations. Even the Lord of Heaven Light had warned him beforehand. Cultivating to the 5th level of rune inheritance indeed allowed the use of runes within a time loop, but it would certainly be subject to numerous restrictions. However, compared to other 12-layer consummates who couldn't use any means within a time loop, being able to slightly use the power of runes was already considered a cheat. Future. Lin Yuan attempted to use the runes before him to observe the future timelines of this time loop world. Buzzing, numerous runes constantly intertwined and collided, and due to immense suppression from the time loop world, Lin Yuan could barely see the future, only slightly receiving bits of information from it. Moreover, this information was displayed in text form before him. In Lin Yuan's vision, lines of illusory text continuously flashed. At 18, you were hunted by the court, hiding in the deep mountains, and managed to survive due to your third uncle's intervention. A day later, you and your third uncle set out for Yong State, intending to seek refuge with the Yong State Division. Half a month later, you and your third uncle smoothly arrived in Yong State. The Yong State Red Lotus Sect Division leader warmly welcomed you. A month later, the Yong State Red Lotus Sect Division leader colluded with the court to ambush you. Your third uncle died in battle and you barely escaped. A year later, you died at the hands of 3 entering Dao masters. Lines of text flashed by. Lin Yuan roughly saw one of his future timelines. The Yong State Division leader has already defected to the court? Lin Yuan furrowed his brow, disappointed that his third uncle trusted the Yong State Division leader immensely, and he himself had a great impression of them. The sect leader's fall and the court's power are also understandable. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and nodded slightly. Then he continued to observe line by line of future timelines. Of course, he observed them in text form. After most of the day, Lin Yuan stopped, rubbing his temples. Under the immense suppression of the time loop world, he observed thousands of timelines over most of the day. Finally, he found the timeline most advantageous to him. The most important now is to enter Dao, becoming an entering Dao master. Lin Yuan steadied himself, realizing in the many future timelines observed, the stronger he was, the easier the situations he faced. Entering Dao, using spiritual power as a medium to draw upon the power of heaven and earth. Lin Yuan recalled the Red Lotus Sect's secret technique for entering Dao. In truth, the first step of every secret technique for entering Dao worldwide was mostly the same. For an existence like Lin Yuan, entering Dao was incredibly simple. Boom! As Lin Yuan continuously emitted spiritual power, the power of heaven and earth began to slowly gather from all directions, pouring into Lin Yuan's body. In the distance, the hunchbacked old man, third uncle, was vigilantly patrolling, carefully inspecting every trace. Just then, the hunchbacked old man's spirit trembled. He turned to look behind, where the young master's resting place was. At this moment, wisps of heaven and earth power gathered, rushing in there quickly. Is this? The hunchbacked old man's heart trembled in disbelief. Spiritual power drawing upon heaven and earth. Is this entering Dao? The young master has entered Dao, becoming an entering Dao master? Sect leader, did you see? The young master has become an entering Dao master. The hunchbacked old man's eyes were moist. Entering Dao practitioners, their spirits harmonizing with heaven and earth, can achieve feats far beyond ordinary human perception. For instance, standing there, yet not being seen by others, using spiritual power to create illusions to deceive enemies. This method purely utilizes spiritual power, and the sheer might is not significant. Furthermore, practitioners use spiritual power to harness the power of heaven and earth, which is their most formidable means of attack. Enough to make ordinary martial artists despair. Don't be fooled by their cautious demeanor in front of the Defeng dynasty. Aside from such peak dynasties, there are almost none in the world that can make practitioners fear. During its heyday, the Red Lotus sect had only a little over 10 practitioners. Even so, they stirred up storms across several states. As for those Dao masters and heavenly masters, they are truly beyond comparison. When reaching the level of a Dao master, they have no interest in participating in rebellion. All a Dao master needs is to pledge allegiance to the Defeng dynasty to receive benefits and treatment. Almost equals the rank of a prince. If unwilling to pledge allegiance to Defeng, they can completely escape to some small countries surrounding Defeng. With the power of a Dao master, they absolutely reign supreme in those small countries. Opposing the Defeng dynasty, Dao masters are no fools. Of course, becoming a practitioner is exceptionally difficult. Defeng dynasty offers unified training, resources, guidance, all of the highest quality. Yet, The number of practitioners they can cultivate is extremely low, even fewer in the civilian world. Seeing Lin Yuan's spirit drawing upon heaven and earth, the hunchbacked old man knew this is a sign of becoming a practitioner. The excitement in his heart was palpable. Lin Yuan becoming a practitioner, his ability to survive against the court's pursuit naturally greatly enhanced. Plus, having himself a peak martial artist. As long as they do not willingly enter certain desperate situations, there should be little concern for their lives. The Red Lotus sect leader faced court extermination, ending in death, because of his flamboyance, combined with being long noticed by Defeng's Tao suppression department. But Lin Yuan is different. The outside world is unaware that Lin Yuan has become a practitioner. The pursuit force is surely not strong. Calm down, calm down. The most important thing now is safeguarding the young master's path. The hunchbacked old man forced himself to calm down. Although he is not a practitioner, he knows some taboos among them, such as when a practitioner first draws upon heaven and earth, their mind must remain undisturbed, to not be torn apart by the violent power of heaven and earth. Thinking of this, the hunchbacked old man became even more vigilant. What the hunchbacked old man does not know. Even a Tao master must cautiously control the power of heaven and earth. In front of Lin Yuan, they behave obediently like a cat. Given Lin Yuan's realm, even if all methods are suppressed, controlling mere power of heaven and earth is still a piece of cake. In terms of mastery over the power of heaven and earth, not to mention Tao masters, even heavenly masters, fall far behind him. The improvement is too little. Lin Yuan opened his eyes, with heaven and earth force gradually calming down all around him. Entering Tao for the first time, drawing the force of heaven and earth into the body, is the moment of greatest improvement. Yet this greatest improvement left Lin Yuan quite unsatisfied, especially regarding the physical body. At most, slightly stronger than before entering Tao. Even heavenly masters still possess ordinary mortal bodies. This cyclical world imposes heavy suppression on the physical body, with only a bit of leniency regarding spiritual power. Yet without a strong physique, it cannot nurture powerful mental will. For most cultivators, the physical body is the foundation. The physical body nurtures everything, the birth of various extraordinary powers. At least some capability for self-preservation is acquired. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. With his current use of spiritual power, he assumes he can directly rival Tao masters. A Tao master, unless foolishly confronting the court head-on. Elsewhere, they would live very freely. The court would not overly compel a Tao master. Take, for example, the Red Lotus sect facing court siege. If the Red Lotus sect had possessed a Tao master, the court's attitude might not have been this way. There would be some chance of consideration for drawing them in. As for the nature of Red Lotus sect's rebellion, isn't whether or not to rebel decided by the Defeng dynasty. As the power of heaven and earth settled into complete calm, the hunchbacked old man carefully approached. Third uncle. Lin Yuan opened his eyes, nodding slightly to the hunchbacked old man. In the thousands of future timelines he had just observed, the hunchbacked old man, third uncle, demonstrated absolute loyalty, sacrificing himself multiple times to provide Lin Yuan chances to escape. Young master, have you become a practitioner? The hunchbacked old man spoke with excitement. Although he had long deduced this from the changes in the power of heaven and earth, he still wanted to hear Lin Yuan confirm it personally. Upon hearing of father's death, my thoughts fluctuated and I luckily entered Tao. Lin Yuan casually found a reason. Entering Tao in this world is a profoundly mysterious affair. Besides personal accumulation and talent, it is also somewhat related to the external environment. Stimuli, impacts, and more all influence it. Good, good, good. The hunchbacked old man nodded repeatedly, not knowing whether he was happy or pained. Happy because Lin Yuan became a practitioner. Pained due to losing his father and being pursued like this by the court. Young master, we shall depart now for Yong State, leveraging its branch sect. There might be a chance to rise again. The hunchbacked old man glanced at the sky, gradually darkening. If it were daytime, there would be too many court spies, even deep in the mountains they dare not travel. Only when night falls, using the cover of darkness, can be even more silent. The hunched old man took Lin Yuan and fled for thousands of miles, avoiding the court's pursuit. They relied on caution. Going to Yong's state? Lin Yuan looked at the hunched old man, shook his head and said, "I don't really like it there." While observing future timelines, he learned that the Red Lotus sect leader in Yong's state had already sided with the court. Now just waiting for them to go over, and then collaborate with the court from inside and outside to wipe out the last remnants of the Red Lotus sect. Don't like Yong's state? The hunched old man was a bit confused. Then how about Red state? The Red Lotus sect in Qi state, although not as powerful as Yong's state, isn't the best option. But it's not small either, and they can stay for a while longer. Red state won't do either. Lin Yuan shook his head. In another future timeline, the hunched old man took Lin Yuan to Red state. As a result, the sect leader in Red state also sided with the court. Now the entire Red state Red Lotus sect is full of court people. The hunched old man thought for a while, mentioning several options in succession. But Lin Yuan rejected them one by one. These places had basically already fallen into the control of Dafeng court. Going there would be like falling into a trap. "Uncle, what do you think of the methods of the Tao suppression department?" Lin Yuan asked in return. The methods of the Tao suppression department. The hunched old man fell silent, a hint of fear appearing in his eyes. The Tao suppression department of the Dafeng dynasty is ruthless and leaves nothing to chance. This time, the Red Lotus sect leader led most of the followers, but ended up being captured by the Tao suppression department. Besides the hunched old man and Lin Yuan, no one else escaped. Even their escape was a result of the sect leader sacrificing his life. The Red Lotus sect leader voluntarily gave up hope of escaping to draw the Tao suppression department's focus, creating an opportunity for the hunched old man to take Lin Yuan out. Since the Tao suppression department has taken action, they must already have full confidence. Those places you mentioned are safe, but don't you think the Tao suppression department knows about them? Lin Yuan said. In fact, before acting against the Red Lotus sect leader, the Tao suppression department had already cut off all escape routes. Those setups in various subsects were not prepared for Lin Yuan, but for the Red Lotus sect leader, an entering Tao master. In the Tao suppression department scheme, they didn't have absolute certainty to detain the Red Lotus sect leader. If an entering Tao master sincerely wanted to escape, even holding them back would come at a cost. The Tao suppression department wasn't willing to fight to the death with the remnants of the Red Lotus sect. Thus, they made arrangements among many subsects. Even if the sect leader managed to escape this time, he'd surely plan to rise again. In such a scenario, he'd definitely leverage the power and influence of other subsects. And the Tao suppression department had already prepared for this, waiting specifically for the Red Lotus sect leader. "Young master, you mean?" The hunched old man was not stupid. After Lin Yuan's suggestion, many connections immediately came to mind. With the Tao suppression department's long-established methods, these things might indeed happen. All the retreats you can think of, the Tao suppression department has anticipated them too, and they've set traps waiting for us. Lin Yuan said. This is indeed true. It's the conclusion drawn from observing thousands of future timelines. Such a state apparatus as the Dafeng dynasty, once it begins to operate, makes it hard to withstand, even for entering Tao masters. Not escaping means death. If not for the fact that the Red Lotus sect has only ordinary entering Tao practitioners holding the fort, the Tao suppression department wouldn't have sent weak forces for the siege, and Lin Yuan and the hunched old man wouldn't have had a chance to escape. What does the young master intend to do then? The hunched old man unconsciously handed the decision-making power to Lin Yuan. First, because Lin Yuan's analysis was indeed logical, those considerations left the hunched old man fearful. Secondly, because Lin Yuan is now also an entering Tao master. Even during the Red Lotus sect's prime, entering Tao practitioners held significant power. Not to mention now. Since the court has left traps outside, we simply won't go out. Lin Yuan said with a smile. Not going out? The hunched old man was stunned. He looked up at the nearby deep mountain scenery. Staying in the deep mountains and not going out? The hunched old man couldn't help but ask again. Uncle, do you trust me? Lin Yuan did not explain further and asked. Of course I trust you. The humpbacked old man nodded immediately. Since the old sect leader died, the only person he could trust was Lin Yuan. Then follow my lead. Don't ask anything, just follow me. Lin Yuan said succinctly. In the 1,000 future timelines he observed, as long as he walks out of the deep mountains within 10 years, a variety of traps will surely await him. Although with Lin Yuan's skills, he navigated through most situations, he couldn't avoid early contact with the Tao suppression department of the Dafeng dynasty. Conversely, if he hides in this deep mountain, he can enjoy decades of stable development time. For Lin Yuan, before his strength fully matures, he dislikes exposing himself, especially under the major premise of killing the Dafeng emperor as a test. It is a test with countless time loops trapping numerous 12th-layer consummates. Is it so simple? Lin Yuan certainly dares not be careless. All right, young master, wherever you go, I'll go. The humpbacked old man understood. The confidence in Lin Yuan's words made him instinctively believe. Lin Yuan nodded and said, within this deep mountain, there is a village named Black Wind Village, gathered by a group of bandits. We will go there. Through thousands of future timelines, Lin Yuan planned a development process for himself spanning decades. The first step is to continue hiding in the deep mountain. Of course, it's not just hiding but occupying the Black Wind Village. Black Wind Village is merely an ordinary bandit force, not attracting the attention of the Dafeng dynasty's Tao suppression department. Lin Yuan took the humpbacked old man to hide there, living very peacefully. And at the same time, he could arrange many strategic maneuvers. Black Wind Village? The humpbacked old man pondered for a while and nodded. I'll listen to the young master. Hundreds of miles away from Lin Yuan and the humpbacked old man at this moment, more than 10 towering men clad in silver armor stood there. They were the many strong figures of the Dafeng Tao suppression department. Big brother, aren't we going to continue the hunt? A bearded man looked at the leading man and asked in a low voice. This black mountain stretches for 10,000 miles. How can we hunt? Are we to deploy hundreds of thousands of troops or an entering Tao master just for a few remnants of Red Lotus? The leading man asked back. Neither hundreds of thousands of troops nor an entering Tao master can be moved lightly. The Dafeng dynasty is currently at its height, but various states frequently experience upheavals, relying on the army to suppress, or on an entering Tao master for suppression at these times. The entering Tao master's combat power equates to about 1,000-man military formation. But no one would consider an entering Tao master equivalent to a 1,000-man formation. The entering Tao master's strongest tactic is assassination, taking the enemy general's head amidst tens of thousands of soldiers. Don't worry, the Red Lotus sect leader is dead, and the remaining remnants can't stir much trouble. The leading man said calmly, I have made ample preparations outside Black Mountain. Once those remnants exit Black Mountain, they will surely not escape. After speaking, the leading man turned and left directly. The more than 10 strong figures from the Tao suppression department followed immediately. The Dafeng Tao suppression department is responsible for suppressing any Tao entrants with rebellious intent. The Red Lotus sect is just one of them, and a relatively weak one at that. Now the Red Lotus sect has largely been addressed, so the strong figures of the Tao suppression department naturally immediately head off to other state boundaries. Deep in Black Mountain, a large group of bandits gathered, known as Black Wind Village. In fact, the Black Mountain winds for 10,000 miles with over 10 bandit forces. And at this moment, outside Black Wind Village, 2 figures appeared, an old one and a young one. Who are you? A patrolling bandit eyed Lin Yuan and the humpbacked old man warily. Neither Lin Yuan nor the humpbacked old man looked like ordinary people. I've come to see the boss. Lin Yuan stepped out, smiling at the bandit. Half an hour later, the chief, second chief, third chief, and other 7 high-level leaders of Black Wind Village all knelt before Lin Yuan, bowing continuously. No one knew that within a mere half-hour, Black Wind Village had changed hands. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 20 years had passed. 20 years passed, neither long nor short. During these 20 years, after Lin Yuan took over Black Wind Village, he mainly did 2 things. First, he cultivated, striving to enhance his own strength as much as possible. Second, he nurtured his subordinates, establishing a power centered around Black Wind Village. In this loop world, even the strongest entering Dao masters are mere mortals. At most, one person can face 1,000 troops. No higher power exists even for Lin Yuan. Therefore, building a force and nurturing capable subordinates is imperative, especially when the enemy is the Emperor of Defeng. The Defeng dynasty rules the world and can command entering Dao masters and even entering Dao masters. If Lin Yuan were still fighting alone, not to say he definitely couldn't kill the Defeng emperor, the difficulty would certainly be very high. However, establishing a force strong enough to contend with the Defeng dynasty, serving Lin Yuan and following his commands, would definitely give Lin Yuan a more proactive stance in the test to kill the Defeng emperor. Furthermore, enhancing one's strength does not conflict with nurturing subordinates. Both can be pursued simultaneously by Lin Yuan. As a time loop trapping countless individuals at the 12-tier consummation, it's a test personally set by the Supreme Rule Dao, targeting each 12-tier consummation. Apart from the Myriad Realms Gate possibly escaping the observation of the Supreme Rule Dao, Lin Yuan's other methods, such as the use of the Rune Dao in this looping world, are probably all projected within the Supreme Rule Dao's predictions. Even so, the test of killing the Defeng Emperor was still given. It can be imagined that there must be some key information that Lin Yuan currently doesn't know. Under such premise, Lin Yuan will naturally make the most prudent plans, utilizing all the power he can borrow. As for the world-breaking origin force of the Myriad Realms Gate, that's the final trump card, and Lin Yuan won't use it unless absolutely necessary. Black Wind Village on the training ground. A group of young people sat cross-legged, letting the scorching sun shine on them. These youths were selected by Lin Yuan from around Black Mountain, possessing the talent to become entering Dao practitioners. Compared to the Defeng dynasty's method of broadly nurturing practitioners, Lin Yuan used the Rune Dao to observe various future timelines, thus more precisely identifying common people who might become practitioners. Although the future holds countless possibilities, and becoming an entering Dao practitioner involves many influencing factors. Under Lin Yuan's training, the chance of anyone chosen becoming a practitioner reached 60%. "Boss, what brings you here?" Lin Yuan entered the training ground, and a lean man immediately approached him respectfully. His name was Ruan Yi, a highly valued subordinate of Lin Yuan's, currently possessing the strength of an entering Dao master. Ruan Yi was an abandoned infant from a village near Black Mountain, raised with the food and shelter provided by many families. During a search for winter supplies, he ventured into Black Mountain and was eventually targeted by a pack of wolves. If it weren't for Lin Yuan's intervention, Ruan Yi would have almost certainly met his end. Such an orphan, his talent in entering Dao is a rare occurrence in Defeng over the past century, achieving the level of entering Dao master in just 10 years. Now, he's considered among the strong within entering Dao masters. In 50 years, he has the prospect of reaching the realm of a heavenly master. "Just came to take a look," Lin Yuan casually said. "How are the disciples being nurtured?" "Thanks to your guidance, boss. They're doing very well," Ruan Yi said respectfully. As an entering Dao master, one would command great respect in the outside world. Only the Defeng dynasty could make entering Dao masters wary. But in front of Lin Yuan, Ruan Yi dared not show any disrespect. Firstly, because Lin Yuan had done him a great favor. Without Lin Yuan, he would have died in the wolves' mouths long ago, let alone become an entering Dao master. Furthermore, Lin Yuan's power. Every time Ruan Yi tried to sense Lin Yuan, it felt like perceiving the vastness of heaven and earth. "That will do." Lin Yuan nodded. 20 years passed. The number of entering Dao practitioners he trained exceeded 1,000. Entering Tao masters exceeded 20. These practitioners now spread across the 99 states of the heavenly lands, becoming pieces in Lin Yuan's future fight against the Defeng dynasty. He watched for a while. Lin Yuan continued to return to his place for solitary cultivation. Judging by the time, third uncle should return soon, right? Lin Yuan thought, and a series of runes appeared before him, starting to observe the timelines relating to third uncle. At 38, you ordered third uncle to Man State to establish trade routes, where he successfully managed various faction relationships but was stopped by the Golden Dragon sect on his return. A month later, third uncle died at the hands of the Golden Dragon sect. Lin Yuan frowned slightly. Before sending third uncle to Man State, he specifically watched dozens of future timelines to confirm no danger before taking action. However, the future holds infinite possibilities, and merely looking at dozens of timelines cannot lock in the future, ensuring third uncle won't face any danger. It's just a high probability that he wouldn't encounter danger. Golden Dragon Sect? Lin Yuan rubbed his chin. The Golden Dragon Sect is a native practitioner force in Man State, considered one of the 3 strongest forces there, with an entering Tao master holding the fort. Golden Dragon sect attacking third uncle did not surprise Lin Yuan. Boiled down to 2 words: interests. Lin Yuan founded a force and cultivated a large number of practitioners, whose demand for resources and money must be vast. For this reason, Lin Yuan specially established trade routes to amass wealth, supporting the operation of his forces. However, the fortunes of the world are fixed. Lin Yuan opening a trade route would inevitably impact local powers. Previously, when Lin Yuan established other trade routes, he concurrently placed many backhands, making local powers angry but wary of acting rashly. Lin Yuan's approach was measured, not monopolizing all interests at once, but moderately distributing a portion, so as to form a balance. Only now, the Golden Dragon sect did not hesitate to offend Lin Yuan's forces to strike at third uncle. There must be some unforeseen variable. Lin Yuan continued using the Rune Dao to delve deeper into future timelines to clarify the principle among them. The entering Dao master of the Golden Dragon sect is nearing death, causing the sect to lose its biggest pillar. It's already very wary, and at this time, third uncle's appearance made them believe an external power was intruding. Lin Yuan quickly uncovered the truth. Forget it. It's best to go out and handle it personally. Lin Yuan observed several hundred more timelines. He had made his decision. The Golden Dragon sect is ultimately a heavenly master-level power. For them attacking third uncle, apart from himself, others would have a hard time ensuring third uncle's rescue. Additionally, Lin Yuan's trip to Man State this time is part of his own plan. The Golden Dragon sect is on the verge of collapse, more suited to be incorporated under Lin Yuan's forces. And making a move against the Golden Dragon sect at this moment, as observed in many timelines by Lin Yuan, will not lead to major issues. The border of Man State. In a dense forest, a hunched-back old man, Uncle San, was frantically fleeing. In the past 20 years, under Lin Yuan's guidance, Uncle San had also become an initiate Taoist. However, due to talent limitations, he was still not an entering Tao master. Ordinary initiate Taoist strength, combined with the methods of a martial artist. Uncle San's combat power was already very close to an entering Tao master. Bang! It seemed that Uncle San had sensed something. His fleeing stopped abruptly. He stared tightly ahead, for figures in golden robes slowly emerged. "Old man, why did you stop running?" The golden-robed man on the far left looked at Uncle San and said sarcastically, "People of the Golden Dragon sect, I have no designs on Man State. I merely came to develop a trade route." Uncle San sighed inwardly and said with cupped fists, if possible, he would rather not have any conflict with the Golden Dragon. Being the most top-notch force native to Man State, and having an entering Tao master-level expert in residence. To completely offend such a force, Black Wind Village's long-standing trade would essentially be over. Uncle San was well aware that Lin Yuan placed considerable importance on Man State. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent him here specifically to develop a trade route. Whether you have designs or not isn't about words. You should come back with us. The golden-robed man standing in the middle said indifferently. The forefather was on the verge of passing, and the Golden Dragon sect was extremely wary of any initiate Taoists entering man's state, afraid that someone might take advantage of the sect's weakest period to cause trouble. You don't even ask for my identity, yet you're taking me back. Is the Golden Dragon sect this domineering? Uncle San's expression was somewhat unpleasant. Surrendering to be taken back by the Golden Dragon sect? He absolutely did not want that. It wasn't about losing face, but rather the concern about exposing Lin Yuan and the existence of the forces behind him. Then tell us, who are you? The golden-robed man at the side said mockingly. I am. Uncle San frowned. No matter who you are, as long as you're within man state, apart from Defeng, you fall under the management of my Golden Dragon sect. The golden-robed man in the middle said. The hunched-back old man in front had the strength of just an ordinary initiate Taoist. Plus, acting so surreptitiously, running as soon as he saw them, definitely had nothing to do with the Defeng dynasty. If he really was an official initiate Taoist of the dynasty, why would he flee so? On the branch not far away, Lin Yuan appeared silently, watching the four golden-robed men blocking Uncle San. Before making a move, innumerable runes floated within Lin Yuan's eyes, observing the various timelines of the future, determining the impact of his next move. I have no interest in man's state. I still hope for some accommodation from the Golden Dragon sect, offering a token of 100,000 taels of gold in gratitude afterward. Uncle San steadied himself, speaking in a low voice. 100,000 taels of gold? Quite a grand gesture. The golden-robed man at the side looked at Uncle San. 100,000 taels of gold. An extremely valuable amount of gold. 100,000 taels of gold could support all expenses of the Golden Dragon sect for a year. Come back with us. The golden-robed man in the middle remained indifferent. Surrender willingly and come back with us quietly, or be captured and taken back. The golden-robed man at the side stepped forward, playfully looking at Uncle San. He was an entering Tao master, confident he had the strength to completely subdue Uncle San. Golden Dragon sect, I've taken note of you. Uncle San's expression turned dark, a hidden murderous aura emerging in his eyes. Determining that he couldn't persuade the Golden Dragon sect, he also grew weary of pretending. The aura within him roiled, spiritual power swiftly rising. During his time with Lin Yuan, he had also learned some initiate Taoist secret techniques. Among them were secret techniques that greatly boosted strength, but such secret techniques have many hidden dangers. Just as Uncle San was about to erupt, a slender, white right hand gently pressed down on his shoulder. Young master! Uncle San turned back, seeing a young man standing behind him, startled. Wasn't the young master at Black Mountain? When did he get here? Young master, the Golden Dragon sect. Uncle San immediately prepared to inform Lin Yuan about everything concerning the Golden Dragon sect and the current situation. I know it all. Lin Yuan nodded, looking towards the four golden-robed men. I've long heard of the Golden Dragon sect's name. Today I'm here to ask for advice. Just you. The golden-robed man at the side looked at Lin Yuan disdainfully. From Uncle San he could feel hints of an initiate Taoist's aura, but from Lin Yuan, no aura of an initiate Taoist circulated at all. From his perspective, Lin Yuan was no different from ordinary mortals. Wait! Just as the golden-robed man at the side wanted to make a move to deal with Lin Yuan and Uncle San together, the golden-robed man standing motionless in the middle, his eyes faintly glowing gold, raised his hand to stop the golden-robed man at the side, his gaze on Lin Yuan growing ever more serious. P.S. Seeking guaranteed monthly votes at the start of the month. Please, please, please. You must have some. See if I can add extra chapters during the day. Bowing. The strength of an entering Tao practitioner primarily depends on their spiritual power. The stronger the spiritual power, the more powerful the secret techniques they can employ. The more heaven and earth power they can invoke. As for the physical body, that's something martial artists of the Jianghu focus on. In this world, even the most powerful physical body is still just that of common folk. Cannot withstand poison, nor can it withstand a sharp blade. A group of more than 10 heavily armored soldiers surrounded them, and they were directly chopped into minced meat. Therefore, when entering Tao practitioners engage in combat, they often first sense the opponent's mental will, then determine whether to fight or flee. The golden-robed man nearby didn't feel Lin Yuan's spiritual power fluctuations, so he was dismissive, not taking him seriously at all. But the golden-robed man standing in the middle thought more deeply. If Lin Yuan were really just a commoner, why would he dare to intervene in matters between entering Tao practitioners? Whether it's the four of them, the entering Tao mages, or the hunchbacked old man not far away, they're all entering Tao practitioners. Although the latter is just a regular entering Tao practitioner, the fact that he attracted the personal pursuit of the four entering Tao mages is proof of his strength. So, the golden-robed man in the middle realized something was off. Instinctively, he activated a secret technique for investigation. In this world, using secret techniques of the entering Tao consumes spiritual power. Unless necessary, no entering Tao practitioner would casually activate secret techniques. Such restrained spiritual power, the golden-robed man in the middle thought, shocked. He secretly activated the Golden Dragon Sex Detection secret technique and vaguely sensed that Lin Yuan did have spiritual power fluctuations. But all the spiritual power was concentrated within his body, like an endless ocean. On the surface, it seemed utterly calm and still, but beneath it was a surging undercurrent. Senior brother? The nearby golden-robed man looked puzzled but stopped and looked at the golden-robed man in the middle. Are you the force behind him? The golden-robed man in the middle looked at Lin Yuan and said in a deep voice. Yes. Lin Yuan nodded. In that case, the Golden Dragon Sect is at fault this time. You may leave. The golden-robed man in the middle thought repeatedly and then said. He wasn't confident about dealing with Lin Yuan. The impression Lin Yuan gave him was too unsettling. Plus, since the Golden Dragon Sect was about to undergo a significant change, the golden-robed man in the middle did not plan to forcefully detain him. The previous arrogance towards the hunchbacked old man's third uncle was because he thought he could surely deal with him. The other golden-robed men heard their senior brother's decision, and although they didn't know the specific reason, they understood their senior brother must have discovered something. The golden-robed man who had originally walked out returned instead. Leave. Lin Yuan looked at the four golden-robed men. He wasn't here just to save his third uncle, but aimed at the entire Golden Dragon Sect and the vast man state. The entering Tao master from the Golden Dragon Sect was about to pass away. At such a time, taking action and secretly controlling them posed no hidden threat. This was also the result of Lin Yuan observing several future timelines. And man's state, geographically advantageous. Originally, Lin Yuan only planned to establish trade routes, then slowly influence it over decades, eventually taking it into his fold. Unexpectedly, this time, a shortcut appeared. If he could seize man's state in advance, it would greatly benefit Lin Yuan's upcoming plans. I don't intend to leave, Lin Yuan said. Don't intend to leave? The expressions of the golden-robed men nearby turned grim. Their senior brother had already given so much face, yet the other party was still being so ungrateful, still not planning to leave. Since you don't intend to leave, then, let's go. The golden-robed man in the middle found it increasingly unsettling the more he thought about it. While reviewing, he suddenly realized he couldn't figure out when exactly Lin Yuan appeared. Entering Tao practitioners have strong spiritual power and are keenly aware of changes in their environment. But determining when Lin Yuan appeared was impossible. Leave, the golden-robed man in the middle said, then turned and left immediately. The other three golden-robed men exchanged glances and didn't continue to argue with Lin Yuan's arrogant words. Instead, they closely followed behind their senior brother. They knew their senior brother well. While he seemed indifferent, he was extremely assertive. Given his reaction now, there was undoubtedly something wrong. Young master, The hunchbacked old man's third uncle looked at Lin Yuan, breathing a slight sigh of relief. The Golden Dragon sect was like the sky in Man state. Outside the official Defeng dynasty, the Golden Dragon sect was the strongest. Even the Defeng dynasty was unwilling to clash with the Golden Dragon sect in Man state. Now that the 4 golden-robed men had voluntarily retreated, it was evidently the best outcome. You won't be able to leave either. Lin Yuan's expression remained calm. In an instant, strands of spiritual power emerged from the surrounding void, constantly weaving and colliding, rapidly spreading in all directions. With Lin Yuan at the center, spiritual power circulated within 100 zhang radius. The 4 golden-robed men within that radius were like being trapped in a spider's web, unable to move. The leading golden-robed man's expression drastically changed. His mind trembled as he looked around in disbelief. Heavenly prison? Such a large-scale heavenly prison. The other 3 golden-robed men also felt their legs weaken, filled with fear. Entering Tao Master? Entering Tao practitioners communicate with heaven and earth through spiritual power, but ordinary ones have weak spiritual power, and it can't manifest externally. Only upon reaching the realm of an entering Tao mage can one barely manifest their spiritual power, but even then, it only extends a few feet around them. However, for an entering Tao master whose spiritual power is extremely powerful, it can purely form a prison with spiritual power to suppress the enemy. That is the heavenly prison. Forming a prison with pure spiritual power is a technique only used by entering Tao masters. That young man, is he an entering Tao master? A few men in golden robes looked terrified. How many entering Tao masters are there in the entire world? Apart from those cultivated by the Defeng dynasty, other states, the most prosperous ones, may have 1 or 2 or 3 entering Tao masters. More than half of the states don't even have an entering Tao master. On average, across the 99 states, excluding Central State, the other 88 states together have only about 40 or 50 entering Tao masters. 40 or 50 entering Tao masters. Although that number seems considerable, it's the accumulation of the whole world. 98 states, each with a population exceeding 10 billion people on average, 1 entering Tao master emerges from 20 billion people. Plus, entering Tao masters can generally live past 120 years, whereas normal people usually live to 50 or 60, which is considered a good life. The true probability of an entering Tao master being born must be even smaller. An entering Tao master, as long as they are willing, can completely dominate several states as a king, as long as they don't oppose the court. The court is happy to appease them. 100-yard range of the heaven and earth prison. Compared to the terror of the men in golden robes, the leading senior was even more frightened inwardly. He held a high position in the Golden Dragon sect, following the Heavenly Master within the sect, knowing that even as strong as the Heavenly Master, when deploying the heaven and earth prison, it could only reach within 20 to 30 yards. The spiritual power of an entering Tao master is not infinite. But the heaven and earth prison formed by Lin Yuan exceeds 100 yards. What kind of majestic spiritual power is needed to sustain it? How could such a powerful entering Tao master have never been heard of before? Having dealt with 4 disciples of the Golden Dragon sect, Lin Yuan glanced at his third uncle and said, "Third uncle, you go back first. Leave Man state to me." Okay. Third uncle responded hastily. For 20 years, it was his first time witnessing his family's young master truly make a move. Although he had long known the young master was strong, an entering Tao master, even at its most prosperous period, the Red Lotus sect only had a few entering Tao practitioners. As for an entering Tao master, they dare not even imagine. If the Red Lotus sect had an entering Tao master at the time, they wouldn't have had to roam several neighboring states. Although the Red Lotus sect established several subsects. But those subsects were basically street rats, couldn't appear openly. If there was an entering Tao master, the Red Lotus sect could completely dominate a state for slow development. Golden Dragon sect back mountain. Entering Tao master Jin Yi sat cross-legged. His physical body is weakening, although his spiritual power is strong. It comes from the physical body. Once the physical body dies of old age, no matter how strong the spiritual power is, it will quickly vanish. Golden Dragon Sect has yet to produce a new heavenly master. Jin Yi opened his eyes, worry appearing on his face. Golden Dragon Sect, entrenched in man's state, has a vast potential influence, paired with an excellent relationship with the Defeng dynasty. Even though there is no entering Dao Master Station temporarily, it doesn't cause too much trouble. Not every state among the 98 has an entering Dao Master in residence. But it is ultimately a hidden danger. Without an entering Dao Master, such as the Sea-calming Divine Needle, they ultimately lack confidence. Hopefully, before I sit in meditation, I can cultivate a new heavenly master. Even if not, at least a seedling of a heavenly master must appear. Jin Yi thought quietly to himself. Decades ago, the Golden Dragon Sect started concentrating resources, fully cultivating some disciple. But an entering Dao Master isn't something you can definitely cultivate just with resources. Just then, Jin Yi's expression changed. Who is there? It's me. Before Jin Yi could react, a young man stood nearby with a smile, looking over. You are... Jin Yi's pupils contracted sharply. Then he felt his own spiritual power was suppressed and sealed. The young man walked easily to him, looking down at him. Who are you, heavenly master? Jin Yi had a hopeless expression. From the brief contact just now, Jin Yi was sure of one thing, that he absolutely couldn't be a match for the young man. The opponent silently appeared nearby, and sealed his spiritual power without any warning. No matter which point, it highlights that the opponent wanting to kill him is not a difficult task. Jin Yi, although about to sit in meditation, his physical body decayed and rotted. But the fight between entering Dao Masters depends not on the physical body, but on spiritual power. In this respect, Jin Yi, the entering Dao Master, is defeated completely. You don't need to know who I am. Lin Yuan smiled as he overlooked Jin Yi. Now you have two choices. Two choices. Jin Yi's heart trembled. 1. Give up resisting. Let me perform the soul search, and then assist me in taking over the Golden Dragon Sect. I will ensure the Golden Dragon Sect's inheritance remains unbroken, Lin Yuan said. After 20 years of cultivation, Lin Yuan's power now surpasses that of ordinary entering Dao Masters. An old-school heavenly master like Jin Yi stands no chance against him. But in essence, Lin Yuan is also an entering Dao Master. He is of the same level as Jin Yi. The most is his application of spiritual power far exceeds that of the opponent. But performing a soul search? If it means completely receiving all memories of the other party, cooperation is still needed. At least not violently resist. Soul search. Jin Yi's mouth twitched. Entering Dao Masters study spiritual power. They are capable of performing soul searches. But performing a soul search on an entering Dao Master? An entering Dao Master would never willingly have their soul searched. All hidden secrets would be intricately exposed to the enemy. What is the second choice? Jin Yi's voice was hoarse. I forcibly perform a soul search, the Golden Dragon Sect is utterly destroyed, and the inheritance is permanently severed. Lin Yuan said directly. Forcibly performing a soul search can result in memory loss and other consequences. Two choices. You choose one. Lin Yuan gazed down at Jin Yi. Jin Yi fell into silence. He had no doubt about the second possibility Lin Yuan mentioned. With the power Lin Yuan has currently displayed, destroying the Golden Dragon Sect would be all too simple. I choose the first one. Jin Yi sighed inwardly, though he was unsure if Lin Yuan would keep his promise. He had no other choice now. In any case, he was surely going to die. Even if soul searched, it would at most mean a more painful end. So, the Golden Dragon Sect can continue its inheritance. Lin Yuan nodded. In fact, he had already foreseen Jin Yi's final decision by observing the future timeline. Golden Dragon Sect? A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face, completely receiving Jin Yi's memories, along with the assistance of this entering Dao Master. he could most securely absorb all influence and power of the Golden Dragon sect. As for forcibly purging, then inserting his own people, that would be a most inferior approach. Firstly, it's likely to show flaws. Secondly, it's too wasteful. The disciples of the Golden Dragon sect exceed tens of thousands, with over 2,000 entering Tao practitioners. To purge such a batch of high-quality subordinates. The Feng dynasty capital within the imperial palace. The young emperor sat upright on the throne, frowning in contemplation. For 20 years, I've also successfully become an entering Tao master. The young emperor murmured to himself, the greatest power of this dynasty is held in my hands. Within this capital, there are more than 10,000 entering Tao spellcasters, over 100 entering Tao masters, and several 100,000 of the most elite imperial guards. With such colossal strength, if I wish, I could easily overtake the external 98 states. Moreover, this palace is entirely crafted from special materials that restrain spiritual power. Even an entering Tao master falls inside, they would be greatly suppressed, retaining but a fraction of their power. Thus, inside the palace, the patrols are from the most elite imperial guard. An entering Tao master daring to infiltrate could be easily torn apart by dozens of guards, and there are 100,000 guards inside the palace. The young emperor grew increasingly solemn in his thoughts. Under such conditions, the demand of this calamity is merely for me to survive for 150 years? No, it should be 130 years now. Just asking me to stay alive? The young emperor harbored no contempt, realizing that such a requirement implied the calamity he faced was certainly not something his current strength could easily counter. If he could effortlessly prevail without any action, then it wouldn't be worthy of being regarded as the final trial he must confront. Enough! The young emperor surveyed his surroundings, which he deemed the safest place beneath the heavens, the imperial palace. He had already made up his mind. I can't stay in the palace any longer. The palace is certainly the epitome of absolute safety. At least the young emperor can't imagine what kind of power could break through the palace and kill him here. This world greatly suppresses the physical body, preventing it from growing, and the ultimate strength of mental will is also limited. It's impossible to fight against tens of thousands alone. But the last calamity is naturally not that simple. It's definitely not something he can face directly. The young emperor never intended to do so anyway. Moreover, he directly assumed that the palace would eventually be breached. In such a scenario, the so-called absolute safety is meaningless. The palace is too big a target. Everyone knows the emperor is in the palace. Rather than staying in the palace waiting for the catastrophe to strike, it's better to fade into the world. This world is vast beyond measure, with the De Feng dynasty occupying the richest 99 states. Beyond the 99 states, many small countries are scattered around. Further away, there are vast lands such as the boundless deep sea to the east. However, it is sparsely populated there with harsh living conditions. The young emperor thinks that as long as he finds a random place to hide, no matter how unprecedentedly powerful the catastrophe is, even if it can break through the palace, it can't do much to him. After enduring 150 years, then he will have won. As for how to endure, the young emperor doesn't care. Directly confront the catastrophe? That would be the most foolish way. The requirement of this calamity is not for him to defeat it. He just needs to survive for 150 years. Golden Dragon Sect. Lin Yuan took just over half a month to completely take over and control this giant power in man's state. Mainly due to Jin Yi, the entering Tao master, cooperatively paving the way for Lin Yuan. Coupled with Lin Yuan showcasing the power of an entering Tao master, the other disciples naturally did not dare to resist. Why did an entering Tao master suddenly appear? A vast force like the Golden Dragon Sect would surely cultivate disciples in secret. Disciples with real potential to become entering Tao masters would definitely not be exposed. What if they encounter assassination from other forces before becoming a heavenly master? Thus, Lin Yuan's appearance was regarded by the whole Golden Dragon Sect as Jin Yi's secretly cultivated successor. In this way, the power transition within the Golden Dragon sect became exceptionally simple. Furthermore, Lin Yuan performed a soul search on Gene E, learning everything about the Golden Dragon sect and even able to view numerous timelines. In less than a month, the entire Golden Dragon sect was completely submissive to Lin Yuan. Due to the suppression in this world, Lin Yuan, when viewing future timelines, can't see accurate images and can only reveal them in fragmented text form. Thus, it was very necessary to perform a soul search on Gene E, besides gaining a deeper understanding of the Golden Dragon sect. It also saved a lot of time viewing Gene Yi's past and future timelines. Lin Yuan's target is the Defeng Emperor. The majority of the timelines viewed usually relate to the Defeng Emperor. As for the Golden Dragon sect, it's not worth Lin Yuan's excessive energy. Man's state has been taken. In the Golden Dragon Hall, Lin Yuan sat casually. Taking over the Golden Dragon sect was entirely an unforeseen pleasure. In the various timelines previously viewed, this timeline was never seen. Mastering the Golden Dragon sect, he essentially controlled the entire man state. As for the official forces of the Defeng dynasty, using Lin Yuan's methods, drawing on the forces of the Golden Dragon sect, the official forces of the Defeng dynasty in man state would be replaced in silence. Time is still tight. Lin Yuan's thoughts gathered. After 20 years of cultivation, Lin Yuan considered himself at the pinnacle of an entering Dao master. In terms of combat power, he was invincible among entering Dao masters. Ordinary ones had no means to resist him. But such powerful strength has little effect on lifespan extension. According to Lin Yuan's precise understanding of the physical body, his remaining lifespan will not exceed 130 years, which means to pass this time loop trial, he must kill the Defeng Emperor within 130 years. If on the last day of life, I still cannot kill the Defeng Emperor, I'll directly use world-breaking origin force to kill. Lin Yuan thought in his heart. The world-breaking origin force is the ultimate trump card. Even at the 13th level of time-based life, it has a significant function. It should be avoided if possible. Long before reaching the 13th level, Lin Yuan had methods of forcibly entering other natural universes. He had tried to enter a universe about to undergo great destruction, but he couldn't absorb a massive amount of world-breaking origin force as he did in his home universe. Lin Yuan speculated this was due to the consciousness of the Chaos Void origin. The world-breaking origin force might be the core origin power of a dimensional space like Chaos Void. Even 13th level time-based lives hardly discover and absorb it. It exists at the universe's great destruction in Chaos Void, with world-breaking origin force overflowing then. Originally, the Chaos Void consciousness wouldn't interfere with the overflowing world-breaking origin force, because even time-based lives couldn't discover it. But since Lin Yuan massively absorbed the world-breaking origin force from his home universe's great destruction, the Chaos Void consciousness becomes guarded against this. For each natural universe about to be destroyed, as soon as the world-breaking origin force overflowed, it immediately collects into the deepest primordial lands of the Chaos Void, not allowing Lin Yuan any chance to absorb it. Thus, Lin Yuan's current method of accumulating world-breaking origin force is to rely solely on the passage of time. 4,000,000 world-breaking origin force as the price to break through the time loop. Definitely avoid paying if possible. The world-breaking origin force as a trump card. Lin Yuan naturally is unwilling to pay. But if relying solely on himself, he really can't break through the time loop. He would definitely not hesitate to use the world-breaking origin force. But having done nothing, unsure if he could break through the time loop, directly expending all his world-breaking origin force, Lin Yuan certainly wouldn't agree to this. In any case, the initiative to break through the time loop is currently with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan is naturally in no rush. The time beings of Chaos Void, the first source world, and the second source world are watching my future timeline, and are extremely certain of my stepping into the 13th stage because, in the future, I am destined to step into the 13th stage. Probably because the world-breaking origin force can be used within the time loop. Lin Yuan's expression showed contemplation. This could explain it. A time loop varies from person to person, there's no certainty of breaking through it. But the world-breaking origin force, as an omnipotent force, can directly break through the time loop, ensuring his final advancement into the 13th stage. The only difference is whether he spent 4 million world-breaking origin force to step into the 13th stage, or without spending the 4 million world-breaking origin force, rely on himself to break through the time loop to step into the 13th stage. Lin Yuan naturally hopes for the latter. Besides saving a substantial amount of world-breaking origin force, it's also a test of his own strength. He can take this opportunity to prove himself. After fully taking the helm of the Golden Dragon sect, Lin Yuan continued to watch his future timeline. Lines of illusory text appeared and disappeared in his vision, allowing Lin Yuan to see a certain possibility of his future. At 38, you believe no entering Dao Master is your match, so you infiltrate Dafeng's capital, intending to assassinate the Emperor of Dafeng. A month later, you are surrounded and killed by 28 entering Dao Masters and 50,000 Imperial Guards. You died. Lin Yuan raised an eyebrow. With his current strength, he's considered invincible individually. Yet, he infiltrated the capital and died before even meeting the Emperor of Dafeng. 28 entering Dao Masters? Lin Yuan lightly shook his head. This number of entering Dao Masters is almost half of those in the 98 states combined. Additionally, with the most elite 50,000 Imperial Guards. If he fought to the death without retreat, there indeed would be a possibility of dying. Since he was observing his future timeline, Lin Yuan rarely thought about retreating. Since it was an assassination attempt on the Dafeng Emperor, it was a mission with no retreat. Even if the assassination was unsuccessful, it would at least reveal the capital's tactics. So in this timeline, Lin Yuan ultimately perished. If it really happened now, Lin Yuan realized it was not feasible. He would definitely retreat immediately. Even if he didn't retreat, before dying, he would use the world-breaking origin force to forcefully clear the level. Continue. Lin Yuan began watching a new timeline again. At 38, you infiltrate the capital, being much more cautious. 2 months later, you successfully enter the palace. Encountered by 30,000 Imperial Guards, you died. Lin Yuan rubbed his chin. Merely 30,000 Imperial Guards and no other entering Dao Master restraint. Yet he died? Seeing a secret in the palace, enough to suppress an entering Dao Master's secret. Lin Yuan speculated in his heart. The rune Dao can indeed be used in a looping world but is greatly suppressed, only able to manifest in the form of text. Therefore, Lin Yuan indeed lacks much crucial information and intelligence. But from the existing results, he can completely extrapolate many things. Surrounded by 28 entering Dao Masters and 50,000 Imperial Guards, if he fought to the death, there indeed is a possibility of falling. But with only 30,000 Imperial Guards? With his current strength, as long as time permits, he could completely annihilate these 30,000 Imperial Guards. Continue. Lin Yuan pondered for a while, continuing to watch subsequent timelines. After taking charge of the Golden Dragon sect, Lin Yuan's subordinates' forces experienced tremendous development. The Golden Dragon sect, as a heavenly master-level force, has been passed down for thousands of years, and its accumulated network and wealth influence are enough to elevate Lin Yuan's cultivated forces to several levels higher. And next, Lin Yuan began using the Golden Dragon sect as a stepping stone, gradually expanding into other major states. Of course, this process was carried out very quietly, which was Lin Yuan's primary consideration. Before he truly acts against the Emperor of Dafeng, he would not reveal any of his own information or intelligence. Currently, the Emperor of Dafeng is in the light, while he is in the dark, allowing him to be relaxed and have ample time to develop slowly. Once he exposes himself, shifting from dark to light, it would not be as easy as it is now. When the state machinery of a nation like the Dafeng dynasty operates, Lin Yuan's efforts to develop his forces would face many heavy obstacles. By then, wanting to complete the task of killing the Emperor of Dafeng would rely solely on his own strength. This would greatly decrease his certainty. And so it went. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, 50 years passed. The Black Mountain winds and coils for thousands of miles, bordering more than a dozen major provinces. It belongs to the rare, uncontrolled areas of the Defeng dynasty. There's no choice. Within the Black Mountain are ravines and dense forests. Ferocious beasts and deadly insects abound. Even the bandits who roam the area only dare to occupy certain regions within the mountains, living off plundering the passing caravans. Yet, for a long time there has been no news of mountain bandits from the Black Mountain, as if the bandits had completely disappeared from within the Black Mountain. On this day, outside the Black Mountain, an enormous, dark mass of troops had gathered at some unknown time. The troops numbered 700,000 to 800,000, blocking all the mountain paths of Black Mountain, as if facing a formidable foe. Even for a powerful dynasty like Defeng, gathering 700,000 to 800,000 troops at once would require the elite forces of several provinces. If this were truly the case, what they faced must be a major upheaval, enough to affect the foundation of several or even 10 to 20 provinces of the Defeng dynasty. Since the founding of the Defeng dynasty, such a large mobilization has been exceedingly rare. They were essentially to deal with the remnants of the previous dynasty. In the early days of the Defeng dynasty, the power of the previous dynasty's remnants was still very strong. But with the Defeng dynasty's continuous eradication efforts, the remnants grew weaker and weaker. Until a few decades ago, they were reduced to a third-rate force like the Red Lotus sect, which didn't even have an entering Tao master, ultimately sent away by the Tao suppression department of the court. Within the massive army, a rather young soldier looked at the winding Black Mountain in the distance, puzzled, and said, "What's really in this Black Mountain? Have they discovered some earth-shattering treasure?" The young soldier was from another province and didn't quite understand why 700,000 to 800,000 troops had gathered here. 700,000 to 800,000 troops mean not just 700,000 to 800,000 people but also considerable logistics and support. This means that at this moment, the court's forces outside the Black Mountain are estimated to be close to 2 million. 2 million people, just feeding and maintaining them every day, costs astronomical sums of money. No matter how wealthy and powerful the Defeng dynasty is, they can't just do this casually. This kind of mobilization is truly exercising the nation's strength. Unless there's truly some tremendous benefit, like the so-called earth-shattering treasure, there's no earth-shattering treasure. An older soldier nearby, with bulging temples, shook his head and said, "Then what is the reason?" The young soldier looked curious, and several other soldiers nearby looked at the older soldier as well. Did he know some inside information? Hee. The older soldier smiled. "Actually, our role is just to block the path. The ones truly taking action are the adults from the Tao suppression department, at least at the level of masters, and reportedly even heavenly masters have appeared." The older soldier lowered his voice at the end, speaking mysteriously. "Heavenly masters level adults from the Tao suppression department?" The surrounding soldiers gasped. An entering Tao master can already dominate a region, let alone an entering Tao master who is part of the Tao suppression department. It's not like entering Tao masters can just join the Tao suppression department. It's Defeng dynasty's strongest, most core institution, and joining requires thorough examination and auditing. Of course, heavenly masters admitted to the Tao suppression department will receive full support from the Defeng dynasty, their strength and capabilities surpassing other entering Tao masters by a wide margin. Numerous secret techniques at the master level, as well as special spiritual weapons, etc. The appearance of heavenly masters from the Tao suppression department amidst the gathering of such a large army sent chills down the soldiers' spines. Why exactly? The young soldier who had spoken first couldn't help but ask. Everyone. The older soldier glanced around, ensuring no one else was eavesdropping before speaking in a low voice. "Have you heard of the Wu Gate?" Wu Gate. The soldiers present were shocked. They had, of course, heard of the Wu Gate. The so-called Wu Gate refers to an organization that suddenly rose to prominence 40 years ago. Its rise was due to its possession of means allowing ordinary martial artists to contend with entering Tao masters. Although they could only contend with ordinary entering Tao masters, they were still no match for entering Tao masters and heavenly masters. But even so, It was enough to drive countless martial artists mad. In the Dafeng dynasty, the previous dynasty, the dynasty before that, since recorded history, entering Dao practitioners were always the symbol on high. Martial artists, they were mere commoners. Even the weakest entering Dao practitioner could easily play with them. To use a martial artist's body to contend with an entering Dao practitioner? It was unprecedented. However, shortly after the Wu Gate's rise, they were suppressed by the Dafeng dynasty. Despite this, they still garnered zeal among many martial artists. No matter how the Dafeng dynasty forbade and suppressed them, they persisted stubbornly, like a spark that could start a prairie fire. You mean this Black Mountain is related to the Wu Gate? The young soldier's expression grew grave. If that were truly the case, it would make sense. Actually, introducing a method allowing martial artists to contend with ordinary entering Dao practitioners was a good thing for the Dafeng dynasty, but it threatened the interests of the entering Dao practitioners. Many entering Dao practitioners held high positions in the Dafeng dynasty and naturally didn't want to see this happen. Martial artists and entering Dao practitioners were fundamentally two opposing camps. Besides, if it were solely the opposition of entering Dao practitioners, it wouldn't affect the Dafeng dynasty's true decisions. The reason for the intense suppression of the Wu Gate by the Dafeng dynasty was that the method for training martial artists to contend with entering Dao practitioners. If it exists, it must be under the control of the court. This kind of method, capable of shaking the nation's foundations, must not fall into the hands of outsiders. Yes, the elderly soldier nodded. His brother-in-law was a lieutenant, privy to many insider details. The martial sect. The soldiers sighed wistfully. They were martial artists themselves, naturally eager for means to combat the entering Dao practitioners. They also held great respect for the martial sect. They shattered the myth of the invincibility of the entering Dao practitioners, and survived the court's suppression for so long, only to be besieged by nearly 1 million troops, even forcing the Tao Suppression Department to deploy masters at the Heavenly Master level. The strength of the martial sect was evident. At the rear of the army, within a large encampment, 23 figures gathered. These 23 figures, with strands of spiritual power swirling around, creating an invisible cage around the entire camp. A Heavenly Master-level worldly cage. Each of the 23 figures were strong practitioners of the Heavenly Master level. This siege of Black Mountain, even the mid to high ranks within the army, only knew that perhaps a Heavenly Master-level Tao Suppression Department official would be present. But they had no idea that as many as 23 Heavenly Masters were present. 23 Heavenly Masters. Even for the Dafeng dynasty, deploying so many strong practitioners at once was a significant risk. Black Mountain. Among the 23 Heavenly Masters, the one with the strongest aura was a middle-aged man, the chief of the Tao Suppression Department, a figure second only to the emperor in the Dafeng dynasty. The decision to mobilize nearly 1 million soldiers and so many entering Dao masters was entirely his decision. As the chief of the Tao Suppression Department, he had a comprehensive understanding of intelligence across the world. The middle-aged man's action this time was not for the martial sect. Black Wind Village. The Tao Suppression Department chief thought of the information he had obtained. His expression slightly heavy. The origin of Black Wind Village within Black Mountain was unbelievably massive. Not only the source of the martial sect, but also 9 of the 10 immensely wealthy merchant guilds in the world were suspected to be connected to Black Wind Village. Furthermore, in the court, many senior ministers in recent decades also had unclear ties with Black Wind Village. Of course, these senior ministers perhaps had no knowledge of Black Wind Village, but those supporting them were found by the Tao Suppression Department to have roots tracing back to Black Mountain. Finally, among the 99 states in the world, at least 30 were infiltrated by a mysterious force originating from Black Wind Village within Black Mountain. They possess methods allowing martial artists to combat ordinary entering Dao practitioners. At the same time, they have immeasurable wealth and wield immeasurable influence over many ministers and senior ministers of the court, and control potential forces in over 30 states. These 4 aspects, Any one of them could trigger extreme vigilance within the court, and a slight mishap could lead to unprecedented chaos. Let alone that all four aspects are converged together. The Tau Suppression Department chief had a feeling that if the individual in Black Wind Village wished, they could easily shake the foundations of the Dafeng dynasty. It is precisely for this reason. Despite the fierce objections from the ministers at the court against mobilizing such a large force, the Tau Suppression Department chief remained resolute in order to completely eradicate Black Wind Village. Everyone, you should all be clear about what needs to be done next. Within Black Mountain, the Black Wind Village must not remain, or else Dafeng is in peril. The Tau Suppression Department chief looked at the other 22 entering Dao Masters. These 22 entering Dao Masters were cultivated by the Dafeng dynasty and completely obeyed his orders. They are also one of the fundamental strengths of the Dafeng dynasty. To completely deal with Black Wind Village and remove the hidden threat for the Dafeng dynasty, the Tau Suppression Department chief had decided to pay any price. Understood. Rest assured, Chief, we eat Dafeng's salaries. We are naturally loyal to Dafeng. Yes. This time we will surely clear the obstacles for Dafeng. One after another, the entering Dao Masters spoke. The Tau Suppression Department chief nodded slightly upon hearing this. This is the advantage of cultivating heavenly masters within one's domain. They are utterly loyal to Dafeng. If it were the entering Dao Masters from the other 98 states, no one knows what kind of mischief would occur. They might outwardly comply with his orders at most. But secretly, would there be any real effort? Certainly not. However, if possible, we should try to capture the Black Wind Village chief alive, said the Tau Suppression Department chief. The Black Wind Village chief possesses power that threatens the Dafeng dynasty. It's certainly best to capture him alive. This way, the impact can be minimized. Through the Black Wind Village chief, the Dafeng dynasty can re-establish control over his forces. If the Black Wind Village chief were to die, even though his forces wouldn't unify, the chaos would still significantly affect the Dafeng dynasty. The Tau Suppression Department chief wants to capture the Black Wind Village chief alive. Besides the reasons mentioned above, he also wants to see with his own eyes this opponent whom he has never met. For decades, there has been a continuous secret confrontation between the Tau Suppression Department chief and the Black Wind Village chief. The former controls the most powerful forces of the Dafeng dynasty, yet in the face of the Black Wind Village chief, he has repeatedly suffered setbacks. Led by the opponent step by step, the Tau Suppression Department chief is extremely curious about the kind of person the Black Wind Village chief is, being capable of such achievements under the overwhelming power of the Dafeng dynasty. Let's go. Let's go now. The Tau Suppression Department chief stood up and walked out of the camp. The other 22 entering Dao Masters also followed him out. Together, the 23 entering Dao Masters could essentially sweep through any place except the capital. Even if faced with millions of troops, they couldn't do anything against the 23 united entering Dao Masters, who could decide to kill or leave at will. One entering Dao Master can only stand against 1,000 troops. But that doesn't mean 10 entering Dao Masters are equivalent to 10,000 troops. Every additional entering Dao Master brings a qualitative change in strength. Moreover, these 23 masters work with extreme coordination. This is also the confidence of the Tau Suppression Department chief in annihilating the Black Wind Village. Black Wind Village chief, you should never left that flaw. The Tau Suppression Department chief stared deeply. Originally, even with the means of the Tau Suppression Department, it was impossible to trace everything back to the Black Wind Village within the Black Mountain, until the unintentional trace left by the Black Wind Village chief was discovered. After many verifications and cross-references with other intelligence, it was confirmed that the Black Wind Village within the Black Mountain was the greatest threat in the past decades to the Dafeng dynasty. Presumably, it is also the greatest threat since the founding of the Dafeng dynasty. Swish, swish, swish. Under the cover of moonlight, 23 entering Dao Masters silently infiltrated the Black Mountain, advancing toward the Black Wind Village. In no time, the Black Wind Village came into distant view. There it is. The Tau Suppression Department chief gazed from afar. Immediately, he and the 22 entering Dao masters approached swiftly. Meanwhile, deep within the Black Wind village, inside a quiet chamber, a young man sat cross-legged. The young man's black hair was like ink, his expression serene, as majestic as a towering mountain. If not known by those closest to him, no one would realize this young man is, in fact, an 88-year-old elder. In this world, even the strongest entering Tao masters live just over 100 years. By the age of 80 or 90, the body begins to decay, inevitably showing signs of age. Only Lin Yuan, with perfect control over his vitality and qi, could maintain such a youthful appearance. Of course, it is merely maintaining youthfulness and does not enhance true longevity. 88 years old, the trail you left intentionally a few years ago has finally led the Tao Suppression Department chief to take action, leading the most elite group of entering Tao masters of the Defeng dynasty deep into the Black Mountain. One line after another appeared and disappeared in his vision. A decade ago, Lin Yuan's power reached its peak, the true peak, the pinnacle of this world's potential, unable to progress any further. Since then, Lin Yuan began plotting to weaken the Defeng dynasty's power. Deliberately leaving a trail to draw the attention of the Tao Suppression Department chief was part of Lin Yuan's plan, to thereby keep the Defeng dynasty's most elite entering Tao masters permanently in the Black Mountain. Only by doing so can the future confrontation with the Defeng Emperor proceed more smoothly. At 89 years old, you ordered the army and numerous entering Tao practitioners to besiege the Defeng capital. As all forces of the Defeng capital were used to counter, you silently infiltrated the royal palace, finally encountering the fretful Defeng Emperor seated on the throne. You directly struck, killing the Defeng Emperor. Finally, the lines of illusory text in his vision gradually dissipated as Lin Yuan gently closed his eyes. For the past 50 years, Lin Yuan had tried various methods to kill the Emperor of Defeng. Assassination, poisoning, seduction, and so on and so forth. But the success rate was not very high. Among 10 future timelines, only about 3 or 4 ended with the successful assassination of the Defeng Emperor. Once the first attempt failed, the success rate of trying to assassinate the Defeng Emperor again by the same means plummeted. Only this time, Lin Yuan used the momentum he had accumulated over 70 years to hold back almost all the forces of the Defeng dynasty. He then ventured alone into the imperial palace and successfully killed the Defeng Emperor. From beginning to end, it was almost seamless. No variables arose in the process. Watch a little longer. Lin Yuan collected his thoughts, attempting once again to observe the future timelines. You killed the Defeng Emperor. You killed the Defeng Emperor. You killed the Defeng Emperor. He continuously observed several dozen future timelines. Through this method, the probability of breaking into the capital's imperial palace and assassinating the Defeng Emperor was nearly 100%. This is the advantage of absolute power. If Lin Yuan were alone, without relying on any external aid, not to say that it would be impossible to kill the Defeng Emperor, but there would definitely be numerous variables. No matter how much one strategizes and calculates, it would be futile. Variables will always exist. However, Lin Yuan furrowed his brows slightly. In the dozens of future timelines he just observed, after he killed the Defeng Emperor, the cyclical time did not end. He still waited for the limitation of his lifespan. Is it the future glimpsed through the rune Tao that cannot truly break through this cyclical time world? Or is it something else? Lin Yuan fell into brief contemplation, but very soon, his gaze turned to the outside world. At this moment, within Black Wind Village, waves of spiritual power fluctuations could be felt. Since Black Wind Village was Lin Yuan's base of operations, he had naturally set up many contingencies. However, to lure the Tao Suppression Department chief, Lin Yuan had long since withdrawn most of the entering Tao masters from Black Wind Village. Now, the number of entering Tao masters within Black Wind Village was just 7 or 8, aptly within the manageable range for the Tao Suppression Department chief. If there were too many entering Tao masters, exceeding the maximum that the Tao Suppression Department chief could handle, the opponent would notice and undoubtedly turn and leave without hesitation. As for having the numerous entering Dao masters hide, the other entering Dao masters lacked Lin Yuan's ability to perfectly conceal their own auras. This isn't a matter of secret techniques but of complete control over oneself. And dealing with 20 or 30 entering Dao masters, Lin Yuan could handle it on his own. He didn't need others to share the burden. Black Wind Village is unlike the Imperial Palace. It has no territorial advantage. With the strength Lin Yuan accumulated over 70 years of arduous cultivation, he could completely sweep away all entering Dao masters. In all the previous observations of future timelines, Lin Yuan perished in the capital and the Imperial Palace, not because he was overpowered and killed, but because he was worn down after exhausting his physical, mental, and spiritual energy. This cyclical world is made of mortal flesh, and even slightly transcendent spiritual power is rooted in the physical body. A weak body cannot nurture an endless stream of spiritual power. Even someone as strong as Lin Yuan would eventually die from depletion. This is why, over the decades, Lin Yuan devoted a large portion of his energy to building his subordinate forces. Lin Yuan speculated that this might be the time loop's test for him. In the past, Lin Yuan always pushed through everything. Even when leveraging his forces, it was merely temporary, and he ultimately relied on his absolute power to suppress all enemies. However, in this cyclical time world, without cultivating a sufficiently powerful force, it would be impossible to even confront the Defeng Emperor, let alone assassinate him. Since the fish took the bait, it's time to reel it in. Lin Yuan stood up, and at this moment, within his perception, more than 20 entering Dao masters from the Tao Suppression Department were locked in combat with the 7 or 8 entering Dao masters left to guard Black Wind Village. Within Black Wind Village, the aura of the masters continually collided. Good, traitors and rebels, merely Black Wind Village, and yet it harbors 8 masters? The Tao Suppression Department chief was both shocked and furious. Even though he had already known that Black Wind Village was unfathomable and that the Black Wind Village chief must possess master-level strength. But 8 entering Dao masters? And they were masters he had never seen before? The Tao Suppression Department of Defeng, which monitors the entire realm, had allowed 8 masters to emerge unnoticed right under his nose? It's important to know that master-level combat strength is extremely rare. In Defeng, apart from the official masters, there are only about 40 or 50 masters. These 40 or 50 masters are scattered across 98 provinces. As a result, in such a small place as Black Mountain, in such a small Black Wind Village, 8 masters were hidden? Form the formation immediately. The Tao Suppression Department chief glanced at the other 22 entering Dao masters. The sudden appearance of 8 entering Dao masters had shattered the limit for the Tao Suppression Department chief. Even though the base of a faction is the most important place and usually concentrates the most strong ones, it is definitely not where all its strong members are located. Just the base alone having 8 entering Dao masters means that other provinces have sent equivalent experts to oversee them. The entering Dao masters under the Black Wind Village chief's command numbered at least over 10, perhaps even approaching 20. A mere faction, yet it controls nearly half of the masters outside of the official ones in the realm, with resources and influence. This outcome caused a chill to creep into the Tao Suppression Department chief's heart. Yes, the 22 entering Dao masters exchanged glances. Their spiritual powers began to merge. The so-called formation is an extremely powerful entering Dao secret technique mastered by Defeng. It allows spiritual power at the master level to merge together, thereby unleashing terrifying power beyond that of an ordinary entering Dao master. This secret technique of entering Dao, although terrifying, has very high requirements for heavenly masters. It requires extreme harmony and cooperation. Only the entering Dao masters trained by the Defeng dynasty can perform such a secret technique. The current situation makes the Tao Suppression Department chief feel apprehensive, already deciding on a swift victory, directly suppressing the 8 heavenly masters within Black Wind Village. Rustle, rustle. The ample spiritual power swept down, covering the entire Black Wind Village. The 8 entering Dao masters, who were struggling to resist, changed their expressions dramatically and began to retreat without hesitation. Too late. The Tao Suppression Department Chief's expression was cold. As soon as the 23 entering Tao Masters formed their array, the spiritual cage created would immediately take shape. It essentially declared the fate of the 8 entering Tao Masters of Black Wind Village. Just as the Tao Suppression Department Chief was thinking about how, after suppressing these 8 entering Tao Masters, to extract more information from them. Boom! A sound of a footstep resounded. Though barely noticeable, it stirred ripples on the spiritual level. Boom, boom, boom. The footsteps came closer, each step pressing on the minds of the 23 entering Tao Masters. Boom! The final footstep sounded. The Tao Suppression Department Chief and the 23 entering Tao Masters turned pale, retreating several steps as the spiritual cage they had formed collapsed directly. The Tao Suppression Department Chief stared intently into the depths of Black Wind Village. Just a slender figure slowly emerged. This slender figure was a young man, imposing and charismatic, with an aura deep and distant. Master! The 8 entering Tao Masters who narrowly escaped disaster saw Lin Yuan, their expressions ecstatic, and immediately bowed and shouted, "Master, are you the Black Wind Village Chief?" The Tao Suppression Department Chief's face turned solemn. Although there had been no direct confrontation, the fact that the opponent, merely through footsteps, broke their array of 23 entering Tao Masters' secret technique left the Tao Suppression Department Chief's heart trembling. At the same time, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. How could such a powerful entering Tao Master possibly leave such a telltale sign of vulnerability? Go! The Tao Suppression Department Chief suddenly retreated explosively. The other 22 entering Tao Masters, as if with mutual understanding, likewise retreated explosively in different directions. The means Lin Yuan just demonstrated made the Tao Suppression Department Chief perceive immense danger, and he further associated his ability to locate here might have been deliberately orchestrated by the opponent. In this situation, it was like falling into a trap, and he certainly couldn't stay long. You're too late as well. Lin Yuan smiled slightly. The surging ocean-like spiritual power poured out, in an instant, everywhere around, filling with tangible spiritual power. Including the Tao Suppression Department Chief, all 23 entering Tao Masters were grabbed back like chickens, falling before Lin Yuan. Spiritual manifestation? Such a vast range of spiritual manifestation? Monster! You are a monster! The Tao Suppression Department Chief felt despaired. The more he understood the level of the Heavenly Masters, the more he realized the unimaginable nature of the spiritual power Lin Yuan had just demonstrated. The Tao Suppression Department Chief was in charge of all the intelligence of Dafeng, this era's intelligence, the previous era's intelligence, the era before that. He understood the ultimate pursuit of entering Tao Masters was spiritual manifestation. However, most entering Tao Masters never reached this step in their lifetime. A few peak entering Tao Masters started spiritual manifestation by luck, but even using all their spiritual power, they could only manifest a range of several meters. But just now, Lin Yuan, if not experienced firsthand, the Tao Suppression Department Chief would never believe that any heavenly master could achieve that level of spiritual manifestation. Having resolved the 23 heavenly masters from the Dafeng dynasty, including the high-ranking Tao Suppression Department Chief, Lin Yuan instructed the 8 heavenly masters under his command, then returned once more to the depths of Black Wind Village. However, this time Lin Yuan went not to the quiet room for retreat, but to another room. An elderly man with white hair sat inside. His expression was slightly uneasy. He was precisely Elder Uncle. 80 years had passed. This elder who once desperately protected Lin Yuan and fled the court's eradication was now nearing 130 years old. If it weren't for Lin Yuan channeling his spiritual power to clear his blood and energy periodically, Elder Uncle would have died of old age long ago. 130 years? Even as an entering Tao Master? Most wouldn't live this long. Lin Yuan still retains his youth because of his perfect control over his blood and energy. Even so, Lin Yuan estimates his ultimate lifespan would only be 177 to 178 years, not counting the 18 years passing during the crossing. In this cyclical world, Lin Yuan can live at most 150 years. That means his ultimate lifespan approaches 178 years. Young master. Elder uncle saw Lin Yuan entering, immediately stood, and with a worried expression asked, "Just now outside. It's a minor issue, all resolved now." Lin Yuan smiled as he spoke. "That's good." Elder uncle breathed a sigh of relief. Having lived to the present, elder uncle had seen through everything. Now his only hope is to see Lin Yuan continue onward. "Elder uncle." Lin Yuan sat beside him, slowly speaking. "What did the Red Lotus sect want to do back then?" "The Red Lotus sect?" Elder uncle hesitated slightly. At this moment, the Red Lotus sect for him was an exceedingly distant memory. The Red Lotus sect was the heart and soul of the sect leader. His life's pursuit was nothing other than overthrowing Defeng. But elder uncle shook his head slightly. Over the years he had also become aware of many hidden secrets of the Defeng dynasty, realizing how laughable the idea the Red Lotus sect had back then. Lin Yuan nodded. He clapped his hands. A figure hidden in the shadows emerged, bowing toward Lin Yuan. "Master." Lin Yuan looked at elder uncle. Then, according to elder uncle's intentions, then glanced at the figure emerging from the shadows. "Start the uprising." "Rebellion." The white-haired third uncle seemed a bit confused. The more he knew, the clearer it was just how powerful the Defeng dynasty was. After experiencing governance by 6 wise rulers, the Defeng dynasty was like oil boiling over a raging fire at the peak of its prosperity. Is this the time to start a rebellion? Let's not speak of other matters. Can they withstand the overwhelming suppression of Defeng's massive army? The soldiers of the Defeng dynasty are 1 in 1,000, selected from every 1,000 ordinary citizens for enlistment. 100 million people in a state, barely enough to piece together 1 million regular troops. But precisely because of this, the military strength of the Defeng dynasty is extremely robust. It also forged the legend of 1,000 troops being able to encircle and kill an entering Dao master. There is indeed the help of various weapons and arms that suppress spiritual power. But it also has a lot to do with the army itself. Yes. The figure kneeling on the ground quickly turned around and left. It was clear they were going to prepare for the rebellion. Lin Yuan sat there casually, his gaze deep and distant. Ever since he quietly took control of the Golden Dragon sect over the past 50 years, the forces he established have been developing rapidly, apart from the traces detected by the Tao Suppression Department. For example, 9 of the top 10 merchant associations in the world are related to Lin Yuan. In fact, there's a larger portion hidden underwater. The intelligence seen by the Tao Suppression Department chief was all what Lin Yuan wanted him to see. The so-called top 10 merchant associations were all established by Lin Yuan. Even though the imperial merchants of the Defeng dynasty have been infiltrated by Lin Yuan almost entirely, and the control over the major states, the Tao Suppression Department chief only found out about more than 30 states. However, nearly 70 out of 99 states in the world are completely under Lin Yuan's control. The remaining 30-some states, even if Lin Yuan cannot fully control, he can still influence greatly. Even in the capital state, central state, Lin Yuan has placed many of his own people. The only place he cannot grasp is the imperial palace. The imperial guard in the Defeng palace have been cultivated over generations, with ancestors going back 3 generations as imperial guards trying to infiltrate them, as difficult as climbing to the sky. If given 200 or 300 years, it wouldn't be impossible for Lin Yuan. But he doesn't have that much lifespan. Having descended to this cyclical world, Lin Yuan confirmed he could live at most 150 years. This is limited by the rules of the world, or the supreme rules that permeate the endless dimensional planes. Lin Yuan cannot break them either. Or rather, he cannot break them by relying solely on his own power. If he expends the world-breaking origin force, he could live longer. But there's no need. Overall, with control over most of the power in the world's 99 states, Lin Yuan is fully capable of challenging and even overthrowing the Defeng dynasty. The only thing to dread is the foundation within the palace. However, it doesn't have much impact. In countless views of future timelines, Lin Yuan has basically figured it out almost entirely. In the multiple views of future timelines earlier, he saw a high-probability timeline where he could even kill the Emperor of Dafeng. Outside Black Mountain, dozens of generals stood outside the camp, gazing at the unfathomable Black Mountain. At this moment, a pigeon with black feathers flew over. It landed on the shoulder of the leading general. The leading general opened the note tied to the pigeon's leg, scanned it, and his expression changed subtly. Gentlemen, the leading general glanced at the other dozens of generals. These generals came from several major surrounding states and were the true commanders currently besieging all entrance and exit points of Black Mountain. As for the more than 20 entering Tao masters of the Tao Suppression Department, they can only command these generals and thus control the army. If all the generals refuse to comply, the entering Tao masters of the Tao Suppression Department won't have much to do. The military deployment involves all aspects. It's not just about strength. Most entering Tao masters are immersed in exploring and cultivating spiritual power, with little experience in commanding armies in combat. In fact, the Dafeng dynasty is very wary of entering Tao masters commanding the military. Originally, an entering Tao master has terrifying individual power, able to capture an enemy general amidst thousands of soldiers. The only thing that can somewhat suppress and restrain entering Tao masters is massive troop encirclement. If entering Tao masters were allowed to command the army, what would happen then? The power structure of the Dafeng dynasty has precautions against entering Tao masters. Even those entering Tao masters nurtured by the dynasty are restricted in several aspects. General. What's wrong with the general? Dozens of generals looked at the lead general and asked. This time, the mobilization of 700,000 or 800,000 troops nearly drained all the available forces of several major states. Indeed, theoretically, a major state can train 1 million troops. But these million troops are usually stationed in various places, and at most only 1 to 2 or 300,000 can be mobilized. There are treacherous ministers causing chaos in the court. Are you willing to join me in storming the palace, executing these traitors, and restoring order to the land? The leading general's tone was calm, but his expression left no room for doubt. Silence. The scene instantly fell into dead silence. Most of the generals exchanged glances, their eyes faintly showing strangeness. A few of the generals were incredulous, clearly shocked by the lead general's words. Storm the palace? Execute traitors? How could they not know? Ruan Qingchuan, do you dare to rebel? A few breaths later, a burly general stepped forward, looking at the lead general with anger. In today's Dafeng dynasty, the emperor is the absolute sovereign? Treacherous ministers? What treacherous minister could sway the emperor's will? Treasonous ministers causing chaos? The emperor could kill a minister with just a word. Is there a need for local armies to take action and storm the palace? The palace is obviously where the emperor resides. If we charge in there, wouldn't we have the emperor's life and death in our hands? It seems you are one of the traitors. The leading general, Ruan Qingchuan, appeared indifferent. Men, seize him. Yes, sir. In the distance, over a dozen armored soldiers came forward and swiftly captured the burly general. Next, another 4 or 5 generals stepped forward. They openly criticized Ruan Qingchuan's actions. As generals, they are not that easy to deceive. How could they believe the nonsense about traitorous rebellion? But any general who questioned was immediately suppressed. Very soon, all the questioning generals were subdued. Are you all just watching the drama unfold? The initially questioning burly general looked towards the remaining generals who stood motionless. There were 53 generals present. Aside from the 6 of them, there were still 46 who made no response. This baffled the burly general. Ruan Qingchuan's nonsense was clearly rebellious speech. If these generals unite, what does it matter if Ruan Qingchuan is the supreme commander? Currently, the 700,000 to 800,000 troops surrounding Black Mountain are from various states. They only listen to the generals of their own states. So as for Ruan Qingchuan, beyond being able to command the troops from his own state, what else can he mobilize? Moments later, Seeing these generals still unresponsive, the burly general finally came to his senses. "Are you all planning to rebel?" When he first heard Ruan Qingquan's words, he was merely angry. But now, seeing the majority of the generals' reactions, the burly general felt chilled to his core. 40 to 50 generals, all from different major states, are now planning to rebel with Ruan Qingquan. What does this signify? Does it mean Ruan Qingquan is backed by an even more terrifying force? Otherwise, how could he bribe so many generals? Rebellion is no joke. If it fails, the consequence is the annihilation of one's entire clan. These generals are already high-ranking and powerful. Rebellion holds no meaning for them, equating to betraying their own class. "Take them away." The lead general, Ruan Qingquan, waved his hand. Immediately, the armored soldiers pressed down on the burly general and the other generals to escort them away. "Ruan Qingquan, no matter what confidence you have, or who stands behind you, the chief and all the heavenly masters are still present." The burly general's voice came intermittently. As top ranks in the military, the burly general and the others knew how many entering Tao masters came this time. And even the Tao Suppression Department chief came in person. Even though 23 entering Tao masters couldn't control this army, so what? They can easily infiltrate and eliminate all the rebelling generals. The chief and the heavenly masters. The leading general, Ruan Qingquan, looked distantly at the struggling burly general and companions, silently thinking to himself, "They are all gone now." The black pigeon just now brought him the news that all the entering Tao masters had been dealt with. Thus, he dared to step forward. If the 23 entering Tao masters and Tao Suppression Department chief were still present, he wouldn't have acted. It would have been meaningless. "Master!" Ruan Qingquan's thoughts drifted, faintly returning to 40 or 50 years ago. Back then, he was a beggar. It was the master who took him in, acknowledging his outstanding military command talent. With the master's support, Ruan Qingquan smoothly entered the military ranks and achieved his current position. One could say that the master was everything to Ruan Qingquan. And recently, the master, who had not contacted him for a long time, suddenly gave him an order to actively enter the army besieging Black Mountain and be ready to act any time. Initially, Ruan Qingquan was quite curious about what exactly the master wanted him to do. Until that pigeon delivered the message, Ruan Qingquan learned his task was to rebel against the De Feng dynasty. The act of rebellion is a matter of life and death. Even so, Ruan Qingquan carried out the order without hesitation. Firstly, everything he had was thanks to the master, let alone rebellion. Even if he was asked to commit suicide, Ruan Qingquan would comply. If not for the master, he would have frozen to death in that harsh winter. Secondly, after years of interaction, Ruan Qingquan had come to a certain understanding of the master. If not without certainty, the master wouldn't have ordered him to rebel. In any case, it wasn't easy to elevate Ruan Qingquan to this position. The master wouldn't let him die meaninglessly. Ruan Qingquan looked towards the remaining unmoving generals from various states, equally shocked internally. Before this, he had no idea that these generals were also under the Lord's influence. Originally, he thought he would face a bitter battle. But in the end, only 5 or 6 generals stepped forward. The remaining generals almost tacitly agreed with his statement, which meant they consented to rebel. The Lord! Ruan Qingquan's mind once again conjured the image of the Lord. He was a young man who seemed to know everything about the world. On this day, the 800,000-strong army besieging the Black Mountain turned toward the capital city, claiming to eliminate the treacherous ministers by the emperor's side. The entire court was shaken. Before the court ministers could discuss how to respond, 68 states including Red State and Yong State responded in succession, mobilizing their forces to the capital city, intending to eliminate the treacherous ministers by the emperor. For a time, the De Feng dynasty was in turmoil. The central state court retreated step by step under the onslaught of nearly 70 states. It's worth mentioning, according to historical patterns, in such turbulent times, neighboring small countries would often take the opportunity to invade the 99 states, seizing vast resources and population. After all, the 99 states controlled by Defeng, also known as the Central Plains 99 states, were the richest in resources in the world. Neighboring small countries had been eyeing them for a long time. But now, regardless of how chaotic the 99 states were, these small countries were unusually docile, showing no intention of invasion or plundering. In fact, the so-called turmoil in the 99 states was only relative. Among ordinary people, things were quite stable. Among the nearly 70 states that responded to the call to eliminate the treacherous ministers, there was basically no change. As for the remaining 30 or so states, they also did not resist for long, and the ordinary populace didn't experience anything excessive. When the army arrived, order was maintained as usual very smoothly. Outside the capital city, a massive army had gathered densely. Numerous entering Tao masters stood in various places, their vast spiritual power vaguely enveloping the capital. Within the capital, there was also Defeng's last and strongest line of defense. Over 100 entering Tao masters stood on the city walls, confronting the besieging army and masters. On a hilltop, a dozen or so figures stood silently, calmly gazing at the towering walls of the capital. "What does the Lord say? Should we begin the attack?" A general clad in black armor spoke. They were currently in a tense standoff with Defeng's capital city, and with a single order, they would begin the assault. "No rush." A white-robed scholar smiled slightly. "No rush." The rest had no words of doubt. After so many years, they trusted the Lord extremely. Just when all of Defeng's forces had gathered on the city walls, preparing for the decisive battle that could happen at any moment, a young man casually walked down the street with patrolling soldiers approaching, yet they didn't notice him at all, as if the young man didn't exist. This young man was Lin Yuan. At this moment, nearly all forces within the capital were being distracted by the forces outside, leaving the interior at its most vulnerable. And at this time, it was also the most likely moment for Lin Yuan to assassinate the Defeng emperor. Soon, Lin Yuan arrived at the imperial palace. Compared to the chaos outside, the palace was much more solemn. Numerous imperial guard patrolled it. Yet still, no imperial guard noticed Lin Yuan. The strong individuals in the palace who could barely discern Lin Yuan's presence had all gone to the city walls. Ordinary people or ordinary heavenly masters could not detect Lin Yuan at all under the overwhelming influence of spiritual power. The suppression of spiritual power in this place is significant. Lin Yuan entered the palace and found his spiritual power forcibly weakened. In 70 years, Lin Yuan had observed the palace countless times on the future timeline. But it was his first time physically entering. Daring to enter in person meant Lin Yuan had absolute confidence. Not long after, Lin Yuan walked to the front of a great hall. Seated on the dragon throne inside was an elder in imperial robes. Defeng Emperor? Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly became terrifyingly intense. The formless spiritual power traversed the immense hall, directly piercing the head of the elder in imperial robes. Bang! No surprises whatsoever. The elder in the dragon robe sitting on the throne had his head explode like a watermelon. The highest realm at the entering Tao Master level is the materialization of the spirit. Even the strongest entering Tao Masters of the past could only materialize their spirits to a few meters. The so-called spiritual power is a kind of illusory force that can influence reality by harnessing the power of heaven and earth. As for spiritual power itself, it cannot directly interfere with reality. Materialization of the spirit is the process of the spiritual becoming material. Only the spiritual power that has been materialized can directly affect real matter. Separated by hundreds of years, Lin Yuan used the power of spiritual materialization to observe the head of the elder in the dragon robe, surpassing all techniques of entering Tao masters of past generations. "Your Majesty, is Your Majesty dead? Your Majesty is dead." The elder in the dragon robe's head exploded, naturally first witnessed by the surrounding palace maids and eunuchs. They couldn't help but scream. Soon, a large number of the imperial guard came in. Immediately, the palace physicians also rushed over. All the physicians, tense, intended to do their utmost to treat his majesty. But when they saw the headless emperor, they fell into silence. If he had just fainted, even with no breath or pulse, the palace physician's methods could still try to rescue him. But now, without even a head, dead beyond dead, how could he be saved? The 9 highest-ranking commanders of the Imperial Guard looked at the elder in the dragon robe's body, their silence somewhat terrifying. Now, with the rebels about to attack, the Defeng dynasty teetering, and the emperor dead at this time, once this news spreads, there's no need to defend the city. They could just open the capital gates and surrender. If the defending soldiers knew about this, their morale would certainly be in chaos. The emperor is dead. For whom do they fight? If it were during peacetime, with the emperor's sudden death, some caution, and immediate arrangement of a prince to ascend the throne, they could likely stabilize the situation. But now, let's not talk about whether the situation can be stabilized. Just which prince dares to take the throne. Taking the throne now would most likely make him the king of a fallen nation. A king of a fallen nation who hasn't done anything yet. And once the rebels breach the capital, the rest of the royal family might survive. But as for the emperor, he certainly won't survive. That is to say, taking the throne now is a certain death and carries the infamy of being a king of a fallen nation. The hall was controlled by the Imperial Guard, yet outside the hall it was chaotic. Even the Imperial Guard itself was extremely confused. The emperor's sudden death was also a blow to them. Coupled with the powerful force of the external rebels, people's hearts began to waver. No one noticed. A young man emerged from the hall, frowning. Why isn't the time loop over yet? Lin Yuan looked around at the chaotic surroundings, his mind deep in thought. In the palace, daring to wear the dragon robe could only be the Defeng emperor. From the reactions of all inside the palace, the elder in the dragon robe must certainly be the Defeng emperor. Aside from the emperor's death, what could have such a large impact on the palace? Yet the more so, the stranger Lin Yuan felt in his heart. Since that elder in the dragon robe was the emperor, now was dead beyond dead. After piercing through with spiritual power, Lin Yuan immediately confirmed the other's death. Even if penetrating the head was a mortal wound to begin with, Lin Yuan still carefully checked him again. Confirmed dead, having lost all living characteristics. The Defeng emperor thoroughly dead. Also dead by Lin Yuan's hand. But why has the time loop not yet collapsed? Nor has he broken through the time loop? The Defeng emperor. The intelligence on the Defeng emperor flashed through Lin Yuan's mind. Strictly speaking, the Defeng emperor was even 2 years younger than him. Age should be 86 years. Ascended the throne at 16. That is to say, he ascended 2 years before Lin Yuan arrived in this time loop world. Since then, he had always sat on the throne. For 70 years, the Defeng emperor hadn't changed. There's no situation of having killed the wrong emperor. And long before, 50 years ago, Lin Yuan obtained the Defeng emperor's portrait. Since then, he updates the portrait once every half-day, keeping the latest grasp of the Defeng emperor's appearance. One could say Lin Yuan watched the Defeng emperor age bit by bit. The elder in the dragon robe's appearance 2 months ago was identical to the portrait Lin Yuan had seen. Indeed, this test is not so simple. Lin Yuan's thoughts gathered, his mind rapidly calming down. Early on, when he came to this time loop world, Lin Yuan felt the test was somewhat too easy. Merely assassinate an emperor? Though the rules in this world are extremely stringent, let alone Lin Yuan, any Chaos Realm consummate could train to entering Dao Master level within 70 to 80 years. After all, with cultivation at that level, even the most ordinary Chaos Realm consummate, with 134 years of arduous training, could reach the strongest entering Dao Master level in this world's history. And with the strength of the strongest entering Dao Master, infiltrating the palace to assassinate the Defeng Emperor, it's not a 100% chance, but at least 3 or 4 times out of 100 should succeed. In other words, the probability for an ordinary Chaos Realm to perfectly break through the time loop can reach 30 to 40%. This clearly does not match the probability of successfully reaching the 13th layer from countless Chaos Realm levels in the past in the Chaos Void. This is still based on the premise of an ordinary Chaos Realm being at its peak. The time loop aimed at breaking through the 13th layer is formed by the Supreme Rule Tao, specifically targeting each lifeform based on their foundation. Lin Yuan's strength far surpasses the ordinary peak of the Chaos Realm, so theoretically, the time loop he faces should be even harder. Originally, Lin Yuan speculated that perhaps the great strength of the Defeng Emperor made the trial seem simple but actually extremely challenging. However, the process of killing the Defeng Emperor just now was incredibly easy. The old man in the imperial robes possessed the peak strength of an entering Tao master. Under the powerful, murderous strike from Lin Yuan, there was no resistance whatsoever. In other words, Lin Yuan's speculation was incorrect. Could it be that the Defeng Emperor in the trial does not actually refer to the Defeng Emperor, but is someone's name? Lin Yuan pondered in his heart, but soon dismissed this idea. The trial of the time loop comes from the supreme rule. Absolutely fair. There are no word games played. When it is said the Defeng Emperor, then it is indeed the Defeng Emperor. And it still refers to the Defeng Emperor that Lin Yuan knew originally. In other words, the Defeng Emperor is not dead now, but still alive? Interesting. Lin Yuan's expression showed a thoughtful look. If it were another ordinary 12th layer peak. Seeing that they had already killed the target and completed the trial, yet the time loop still had not ended. One would at least feel somewhat flustered or even start to doubt themselves. But Lin Yuan did not. With the presence of the world-breaking origin force as a guarantee, Lin Yuan has the absolute initiative to break through the time loop at any time. The reason for not immediately using the world-breaking origin force is simply because he did not want to pay too high a price. However, not wanting to pay the price does not mean Lin Yuan cannot bear the cost. The time progresses to 50 years ago. A seemingly ordinary ship drifted on the Endless East Sea. The Endless East Sea, also known as Endless Deep Sea, is a vast expanse filled with gigantic sea beasts that existed since distant times. On the deck of the ship stood a young man who appeared extremely noble. If there were important ministers from the Defeng dynasty present, they would recognize this young man as the Defeng Emperor currently on the throne. I spent 20 years cultivating a substitute identical to me, so even if I leave the palace, it won't arouse any suspicion. That substitute will do everything in my place. The young man thought to himself silently. The final trial tested him to live over 150 years. This meant that under normal circumstances, staying in the palace, he could not live beyond 150 years. Therefore, the young man did not hesitate to give up staying in the palace and came to the surface of the Endless East Sea. This place is sparsely populated, and even at the height of the Defeng dynasty, exploration of the East Sea was extremely limited. Of course, merely coming to the East Sea was only the first step of the young man's plan. He turned and walked into the cabin. A coffin several meters large was placed there. The coffin was forged from pitch-black metal, exuding a deep glow. I exhausted all the foundation of the Defeng dynasty to cast this coffin with original divine gold. The young man looked at the coffin, his gaze showing a peculiar light. Original divine gold is the hardest metal since the birth of this world. Even the mightiest entering Tao master cannot budge a fragment of original divine gold the size of a fist. At the founding of the Defeng dynasty, the great ancestor collected all the original divine gold to forge 9 cauldrons, suppressing the 99 states, intending for the Defeng dynasty's legacy to last forever. However, until the great ancestor's death, the gathered original divine gold was insufficient. The subsequent 5 generations of emperors followed the ancestral will, continuing to collect original divine gold. Up until the generation of the young man, some of the original divine gold was finally gathered. Originally, these original divine gold should have been used to forge the 9 cauldrons, but the young man forcibly used it to make an unprecedented coffin. I created a false death technique using many entering Tao secret techniques of the royal family. Once activated, it induces a state of sleep, with body functions consuming nearly nothing, allowing survival until life's natural end. which is 130 years later. The young man gently leapt into the coffin. The pitch-black coffin closed immediately. The next moment, the ship bearing this coffin collapsed. This pitch-black coffin swiftly sank to the bottom of the deep sea. The sea depths, a forbidden zone for terrestrial life, especially the section the young man chose, is extraordinarily deep. The young man, relying on the extremely hard original divine gold, was able to resist the sea pressure at the bottom of the deep sea, whereas other life forms, even as strong as an entering Tao master, cannot survive at the sea's bottom, crumbled to dust by the endless sea pressure. This is the young man's chosen way to survive the final trial. He came to these depths, leaving no trace or clues. Even his closest kin do not know his whereabouts. The only ones who knew were the ship crew earlier, who also perished with the ship's disintegration. In other words, at this moment, no one in this world knows his location. In truth, even if anyone knew, it would not matter. He sank to the sea's bottom. Who could reach the deep sea floor? Even those terrifying sea beasts from ancient times dare not truly reach the sea floor, only roaming the surface. Even taking a step back by 10,000. If someone could enter the sea bottom and retrieve this coffin made of original divine gold. But who could harm him through this world's hardest original divine gold even slightly? Original divine gold blocks everything, including spiritual power. Even spiritual power made tangible could not budge original divine gold in the slightest. The final trial's test was to have the young man live over 150 years. The young man speculated that during this period, enemies would surely make attempts on him. However, the trial requires him to survive for 150 years, so the young man had no intention of facing that enemy. Instead, choosing to hide in the deepest part of the sea where no enemy could ever find him, giving no opportunity.